Story 1. I am finally getting a chance to go back home after being deployed for 10 months, but instead of feeling happy, I'm stressed because my mom called my wife useless and tried to guilt me into letting her sleep with us in our small apartment, preventing us from being intimate. Posted by u/extremebus7141. I, 21M, have been deployed for the past 10 months, and I will be getting home in 1 week. My wife and I had planned for her to be the only one who knew the exact date of my return, so that when I get leave, we could go back and surprise all of our family and friends. My wife, 21F, visited home a couple of weeks ago for a family event, and while she was there, she spent a day with my mom and 2 younger sisters, high school age. My mother is very pushy and hates surprises, so much so that me surprising her by coming home would actually make her mad. My wife and I knew we would eventually have to tell her because of this, but we were waiting until the last minute since she would have told my sisters if she knew the exact date. Well, while my wife was there, my mom kept pushing and pushing, saying she wouldn't speak to her, wouldn't let the girls go places, and that she had to know so she could take time off work. My wife gave her a week range of my leave, a couple of weeks after I get back, so that she could request time off. Well, my mom texted me today saying that she would be here for the welcome home when our plane lands. I asked if she cleared this with my wife, since she apparently planned to stay with us in our 1-bedroom apartment, and she said no. I asked if the girls knew and were coming, and she said no. My mom has done a few things that have come between my wife and me, so I lost it on her. I told her I wouldn't be giving her the date that I fly in, and that if I wanted her there, I would want my sisters there as well. I stopped there until she started complaining that she was a single mom who raised me on her own, and that I should want to see her first. That's when I told her I didn't want her in my house at all when I first got home. I am a married, grown man now. I don't need my mom, I want to see and spend time with my wife first and foremost. She pressed further, saying, I've been here for you since before you were born, she's been here for 4 years. She eventually started trash-talking my wife, saying she doesn't even have a real job and doesn't contribute. My wife is a nanny while she's in school, and she gets paid well, so she absolutely does contribute more than enough. This is where I may be the jerk. I told my mom that I was tired of her badgering, that I wanted to come home to my wife and be alone in our home with our pets. My wife and I did not want to host her, and we wanted the house to ourselves so that we could have segs wherever and whenever we pleased, because we haven't seen each other in so long. My mom cried. She's sending me long paragraph texts every few hours about how she doesn't know where her caring son went, how I need to let my wife go because I use her for her body, how all I care about is my own pleasure, and that I have no care for my family at all. So, Reddit, am I the jerk here? I haven't responded to the messages my mother is sending, but if I get ideas from the possible comments, I might. Update 2 days later. A few people asked to stay updated, so here is the first one. Spoiler alert, it's not necessarily a fun one. Unfortunately, because another wife shared our flight date all over Facebook, our return has been pushed back an entire month. I called my wife to let her know, and we are both devastated. I only had enough time for 1 phone call, so I asked my wife to let family and friends know, including my mother. Yes, I know many people might not be happy about that, but again, she didn't receive a date. My wife's text to her was just that I would not be returning until a month later, or more. My mother's reaction to that news has truly solidified what many comments were telling me: I was raised by a narcissist. Her text back to my wife was, "Oh, that's great. That actually is much better timing for me." My wife's response to my mother was, "Do not say that to Op. He is devastated that he will be gone longer, and he has been talking about wanting to be home ASAP since just a few months in. I wish you wouldn't have even said it to me, as I'm devastated by his return being delayed as well. It is extremely selfish for you to be glad he is away from home for even longer simply because it works better for you. I have never in my life heard of a mother being glad that her child will be overseas longer than what was planned." After that, she blocked my mom. Her shiny spine is really developing. I have not reached out to my mother, and I will not be doing so. I won't block her, as with my sisters being minors, I would like for one of us, my wife or I, to have at least some line of communication in case of a family emergency. However, I will not be texting or calling, and any of her texts or calls will not be answered unless I consider them an emergency. There were a few questions and deeper explanations from my original post, so I figured I would go into them more here. My father passed away when I was 6. Ever since then, my mom has sort of relied on me when it came to raising my sisters. Even with them being high school aged, it continued. When I went into the military, my mom got upset, saying things at home would be just terrible with me gone, that she didn't know how she would handle my sisters on her own, and that life would seem more pointless without her son in it every single day. When my wife and I got married and moved to my first duty station, she begged to trade my sisters off, sending one of them to stay with us every few weeks, where they would stay in our living room. She even told us we would need to purchase a hide-to-bed couch for it to work out. Obviously, that never happened, as I told her my sisters were my sisters, and her kids. It was not my responsibility to raise them. My mom and I were very close when I was growing up. I considered her one of my best friends and someone I could always go to. That changed when I got married. I also realized that some of the things she did were not healthy or good parenting moments. My mom started purchasing condoms for me when I was only 12. She was very open about sex with me and was not one to shy away from it. She was completely fine with me having sex at such a young age, which did lead me to being a bit of a man wh. Before my wife, I constantly snuck girls in, snuck out to hang out with girls, and whatever else. My wife was the first girl that I brought to my house during the day, introduced to my family, and invited for dinner. My wife was also very strict with her views on sex when we started dating. We were friends before, so she knew I was a bit of a player. Where I viewed sex as something fun, she viewed it as something that should only be between two people who truly love each other. She was not down for it until a few months into us dating, and I was willing to wait for her. We still snuck around, but when she snuck me in, we quite literally played Mario Kart, watched movies, and hung out all night. When this part of me changed, it changed something about my mom for some reason. She used to ask about the girls I was sleeping with when I was in high school, but when she asked about my wife when we started dating, and I told her we weren't doing anything like that, she got frustrated about me lying. She stopped buying me condoms, which I was fine with because I didn't need them in the beginning, and when I did, I was 18 and completely fine buying them myself. Before my wife and I ever did have sex, my mom would come into my room and scream about how she didn't want me having sex under her roof. I thought that she had just realized that encouraging a minor to have sex wasn't okay. My mom also liked my wife when she was just my girlfriend. This always confused me until I read people's comments. Her going from loving her, inviting her to everything, asking where she was when she wasn't with me, to trash talking her didn't make sense to me until people in the comments of my last post clarified that it was the fact that she was my wife. Her being permanent is what my mother doesn't like. And as far as C-word blocking, my mom has happily done that since we've been married. She screeched and hid her face when I kissed my wife at our wedding. She begged us to sleep on a pallet in her living room on our wedding night, we didn't. She tried calling 3 times a day when we first moved, once around the time I usually got off work, once either during or after dinner, and once at night. Sometimes it was while my wife and I were mid-tango, sometimes when we were already asleep. It was very rare that I actually answered these calls, and when she realized her calls were muted, they faded away. She FaceTimed seemingly once an hour on our first wedding anniversary. Again, I didn't answer. Her wanting us to host her when I first got back was not her being clueless. She knew what she was trying to do. Now that I have a new return date, my mother will not even know the possible weeks I might have leave. She won't need to. I do not plan on seeing her outside of maybe going out to eat with her, my wife, and the rest of my family. My wife will be organizing it and will be able to ask my sisters about days my mother is off work. That's all I have as far as an update right now. I may post more before returning, just based on how things go. I can imagine I will have plenty of an update when I do actually return. Side post 10 days later. Not an update, but related to my post about the post having to do with my mother. Editor's note, this post answered a lot of questions people had, but it did not include an update. It is a fairly long post, so if you have questions, they are probably answered in it. Holy wow. I did not expect my post to reach as far as it did or receive as much engagement as it did. I've read almost all of the comments, including those where the post was shared in other subreddits. I'm bored and off work, so while I don't have service, I'll go ahead and type this out and post it later, addressing a few common comments. The wife who shared our dates was not someone pregnant with another man's baby, and I very highly doubt she did so maliciously. Yes, she was aware that she wasn't supposed to post it, but it was just another case of a very young wife who got excited. As far as we know, she only uses Facebook to connect with family and close friends, so she thought no one would see her post, despite it not being private. Yes, it is a security issue in the military when these dates are shared. It's called an OPSEC violation. Basically, when something is shared online, it could be seen by anyone at any time, including enemies. If someone posts dates, the wrong people could end up seeing it and saying, hey, a bunch of the people who are fighting for the country we don't like are all going to be in a tube in the sky during this time, which would make it easier for us to be attacked in some way. We take this so seriously that we don't even travel together. When deploying or even moving to a different area, we all travel in small groups on different days. That way, in case we are ambushed or attacked, we don't all die at once. My wife and I got married young because we planned to anyway. We did not get married for base housing. We live in an apartment 30 minutes from base because the base housing that was available to us when we moved was gross. We also often talked about getting married in the future before the military had even crossed my mind. My original plan was to propose to her when we were both 24 and out of school. However, when I decided to join the military, we got married, had a very small wedding. We figured, Why not now if it was already the plan? Because I wanted her to come with me. I really don't think I'd make it through everything I'm doing right now if I didn't have her supporting me and by my side. No, I don't think I got married too young. For my last update, I kind of got my hoe around years out at a pretty early start. I really don't have a desire to go out, have one-night stands, get on dating apps, or any of that. I'd much rather go out with friends and have it just be about friends, and come home to my wife. Go out with my wife and come home with her instead of a stranger. Spend my days off at home hanging out with her. And no part of me wants to relearn someone. My wife knows what I like when it comes to the bedroom, and I know what she likes. That, to me, makes for much more fun. That's not to say I think that people who do want those things are wrong, each to their own. It's just not for me anymore. Not a common comment, but one I wanted to speak more on. My wife's contribution through nannying is something she enjoys doing. Soon, when school starts, she is going to start working at an on-base doggy daycare during the day while the kids are at school. These are all little jobs that my wife enjoys and doesn't do for the money, because honestly, we generally don't need the extra. It's nice to have extra for the fun things, but if she didn't want jobs, her support of me and care of our home is really all the contribution I need. Yes, I will be going no contact with my mother once my sisters are out of the house, if things remain the same. If my mother goes to therapy and does self-work to correct the behaviors she has toward my wife and me, I would be willing to give her another chance. However, if that chance is spoiled and she goes back to her ways, it will be right back to no contact. No, my mom is not trying to marry my sisters off to get rid of them. My sisters are both extremely close with my wife, and if she started suggesting these things, I know they would tell my wife. However, I do have a very strong feeling that both girls will be out regardless once they are 18. My middle sister, 17F, has already started saving money, working extra, and looking at apartments in town because she wants to move out as soon as she can. She's talked to my wife about this, and when my wife is home, they sometimes drive around town to look at different apartments, and my wife has even started keeping a few easy and cheap recipes in a folder should my sister need them. My wife and I have a great relationship. When we first married and moved, she started suggesting couples counseling. At the time, I didn't understand why because we didn't have any issues other than regular disagreements. However, with further explanation from my wife, I now heavily agree with her, and we will be starting that when I am home. My wife's explanation is that it will help keep us on the same page and give us the tools to better solve any conflicts that we could face in the future. We also agree that it would probably be beneficial when it comes to learning ways to deal with this situation and others like it. My wife also does personal counseling. She was, at one point, a bit of a doormat. She grew up with a dad who had a my way or you're a disappointment mindset. Now, she is still her keep the peace kind of self, but she is developing the courage and confidence to stand up. She still has a bit of a hard time standing up for herself in situations that only directly involve her, but she's gotten very keen on standing up for the people she cares about. I am immensely proud of her. I have done some, and plan to do more, personal counseling. There has been a lot to unpack when it comes to my mother's antics, and I'm sure there is still more. Before my wife and I have any kids of our own, I want to make sure that I am fully straightened out and have worked on any possible subconscious issues. I want to be the dad and parent I should have had. My mother is not religious. If anything, she follows more pagan practices. I don't know much about paganism, other than the fact that some Christian holidays are just variations of pagan traditions. My wife and I, however, are Christian. So while Bible verses and references that people have commented are appreciated and resonate with us, sending them my mother's way won't accomplish much. I do have separate contact with my sisters, but even still, I prefer to keep a small line open with my mother when it directly involves them. I know my sisters. One doesn't want to burden people with what's going on and won't say anything until after the fact, and one is a panicker who would absolutely leave her phone behind or just not think to reach out at all in the heat of the moment. My wife also has separate contact with my sisters. The older of the two calls her at least once a week to ask her about beauty tips, update her on the latest high school drama, or ask advice about boys, mean girls, and more often than not, dealing with my mom. The younger one does reach out and chat sometimes, but she is in her I'm too cool for anyone but her friends phase at the moment. My mother has tried to reach out more. She sends messages every other day, but I haven't read them much more than skimming for something I actually need to know. News flash, nothing yet. I haven't responded past my original post. For those who commented or sent a chat where we joked about this, here is the part that some may see as TMI. Skip if you'd like, but I won't be going into any sort of gory details. My mom's original comments about how I'm using my wife for her body, or putting my pleasure first, don't mean much to either of us. I am excited to have segs with my wife, and I know she feels the same. My wife and I share an Amazon account, so I am well aware of what she's excited for. I know for a fact that my wife is just as ready for the I missed you segs as I am. If any of you met her, you'd never guess it because of her sweet and innocent vibe, but my God, some of the texts she sends me, The woman is practically frothing at the mouth, Lamau. That's all for now. I assume it won't be until next month that I'll have an actual update about the situation as a whole, and any other things happening. Until then, bye. Second update 1 month later. Hello everyone. I am now officially home, and have been for the past week. I've stayed off social media for the most part, as I've been spending time with my wife and seeing friends who also just returned from a difficult deployment. Being home with my family has been absolutely great. The morning I was meant to leave, my wife and I both agreed that we were going to block my mom until agreeing otherwise. That way, when communicating about flights, layovers, and landing times, nothing would be interrupted when time was running out, and we could enjoy this time without another worry. Unfortunately, storms delayed our landing, and our welcome home ceremony was pushed all the way back to 11 p.m. However, that didn't ruin the night. My wife got to the ceremony, looked beautiful, helped me grab most of my things, and we went home. We were able to enjoy our night. She had several cute decorations, welcome home banners, gifts, and she even made a steak and potatoes dinner, which we ate at midnight. So far, our time together has been amazing. And last night, my wife and I talked, and we decided that I would unblock my mom for now, but continue with not communicating outside of emergencies. Now, here is the update on details with my mother. Some of this stuff happened before my return, and some just now. I thought it would be better to just lump them together for those who are only here for the drama read. When I found out the exact day I would return home, I called my wife and let her know. She asked me if I had let anyone in my family know anything, or if I was keeping it to myself. As far as the date of me being back in our hometown, I decided to no longer keep it a surprise. I will be home for a while before actually returning there, and my wife and I don't want to try to hide the fact that I'm there or pretend I'm still gone or anything. So, I said to my wife that I was going to talk to my family and let them know. However, my plan wasn't to let my family know what day I landed. I told them that I would be home on the date that I got leave to go see people. The day I was getting home, my wife posted a picture on her private story around noon. It showed the welcome home banner and our 2 dogs sitting in front of it, and the caption said, "We're so ready." My sisters are on this private story, but she didn't think to take them off because she thought that I told them I would be flying in on that day. That's my bad, as I didn't specify and just told my wife I'd let them know when I would be home. So, while my mom was at work, my sisters FaceTimed my wife and asked about it. My wife explained that, and they explained that I told them a different date, to which she said, "Oh, he must have been talking about the date he gets to come see everyone there." They all laughed it off and then moved on and talked about different stuff for another hour, until my sisters told her my mom was home and that they were going to go. 30 minutes later, my wife got another call from my sister, but when she answered it, it was my mom. My mom said, "Wait, is he getting home today?" And my wife said yes. My mom snapped back with, "Well, that would have been nice to know." And my wife, trying to keep the peace, told her, "I'm sorry, he told me that he already talked to you guys about it, but when he did, he was talking about when we would be able to travel back and see everyone." My mom told her, "Well, for some reason, he doesn't understand that we can go places too and we could travel too." To which my wife said, "If you guys would like to come here before he gets leave to see him, that is something I would be all for if you want to talk to him about it. The best time to do that would be in 2 weeks, when he has a 4-day weekend. Other than that, I'm not sure what days he is off." My mom said, "I don't care about what days he is off. We could have been there to see him fly in or even just see him after work." My wife replied, "Well, I know that for the first week at least, they have told people it's not a good idea to invite guests. They try to keep reintegration between home families at first. I know when my cousin came back from deployment, they weren't even letting outside family on base for the welcome home ceremony." After that call, my wife texted the conversation to me, and I finally decided to open my mom's texts, just to take a peek. It was nonsense about how they should be here, I took this opportunity away from them, etc. I finally gave a response. I told her, "I gave you the dates for when I would see you. I gave you the date for when I would be back in our hometown, and that is the date I would like to see people. If I wanted you to be at my welcome home ceremony, and if I wanted you to visit in the time between when I land and when I get leave, I would have invited you." After that text, I blocked my mom, and that is when my wife and I agreed to both have her blocked. Today, when I unblocked her, my plan was to speak with her about planning a dinner when we get back. That way, I could be with the entire family at once. I wound up vetoing the conversation when I opened texts from every single day about how I robbed her of her golden moment of getting to be the one welcoming her son back. So, these dinner plans will be discussed with my sisters, grandparents, and won't be involving my mother. That's all she wrote on this story. I'm sure I'll have other things to say about my mother somewhere on here in the future, but this is officially the final update on this one. Thanks to all the comments and people who reached out. It's crazy how many people have engaged with this story, and the fact that it's been read on YouTube channels is mind-boggling. I have greatly appreciated all of the conversations my posts have sparked. Third update 3 weeks later. My mother threatened suicide over not being the first to see me. My first post outside of the many mom updates from a previous one, and of course, it's here. I got home from deployment about a month ago. My leave just now started, and while we waited for my leave, we came to a decision that we likely wouldn't be seeing my mother as much while we were visiting home because of things she pulled during the process of me getting home. We drove through the night. Oftentimes, we choose to do so because it's a 13-hour drive, and driving through the night means our 2 dogs will sleep and we don't have to make as many stops. We pulled into my in-laws' house around 6 a.m. They live on a farm with other large dogs, so we fed our dogs, let them out to play for the morning, and went inside to get a little sleep before the rest of the day. When we woke up around 11, my wife's family had a few small things planned for us to do, then we planned to see friends. Mind you, my leave is 3 weeks long, so we have plenty of time to see everyone and do everything. While we were getting ready to leave, I got a call from my mother. I decided to answer it, despite low contact, because I figured it would be her asking when we would see my family. Instead, it was her telling me she was suicidal. After everything, I do still love my mother. I do still care, but I don't want to let her manipulate me. I panicked, but I didn't want to make a big deal, so I gave her my best advice and went back into the spare room with my wife. I talked to my wife about the call, and she asked if we needed to go ahead and go there instead. I told my wife no, that it was okay, and we would see them the following day for my grandma's birthday. Then I got 3 more calls from my sisters and grandma, asking if I had spoken to my mom yet. My wife suggested I call one of them back, or call my mom, and just make sure someone is home with her. And if they weren't, then we could stop by and make sure everything was okay. I called my mom and asked if she was okay. I got an answer as if nothing was ever wrong. I asked if we needed to come there or if she was with people. She said everyone was home with her and that we didn't have to come there if we didn't want to. Especially because we are busy seeing everyone else first. I was confused, and she told me she was completely okay. I lost it. I shouted at her for telling me she would kill herself and then telling me everything was completely fine. I asked what made her feel that way, and she told me it was because everyone is more important than her. I didn't know what to say. I just hung up. We left and did all of our plans with everyone else. We are now taking my grandma out to lunch today so that my wife and I can see her for her birthday. But we decided it was best we didn't hang with my mom if she was going to pull this stuff as soon as we woke up after getting here. Fourth update 7 months 2 weeks later. I, 22M, have a very, very strained relationship with my mother. Almost a year ago, I made a few posts about her, and the whole realization of things unraveled right on Reddit if anyone's interested in reading those. But the long story short is enmeshment. About a year ago, I decided to go no contact with my mother because of a stunt she pulled. Between then and now, my mother has tried to contact us through social media, by using my grandma's phone, and my younger sister's phones, but when we find out it is her, if we don't know right off the bat, we simply stop the conversation there. After a while, things were peaceful. Last month, I found out I will need surgery on my knee. Nothing serious, just a quick repair from an injury. My mother found this out because I told my grandma, and she pressured her into talking about it. My surgery date is coming up at the beginning of May, and I will have a bit of time off before then to visit family and friends because I will not be able to travel during my recovery. My wife and I talked about it, and we decided that things have been peaceful long enough that it may be worth trying again with my mother. So, we unblocked her, and I let her know that at the end of April, we would be there to visit for a week. I let her know this 2 weeks ago, and things have been smooth sailing since then, until today. My mother asked if she could call me to talk about my upcoming visit yesterday. I told her that would be fine. And the first thing she asked about was if I would be staying at her house for the week that we're there. I told her that we could probably stay for a night or two, but that we would again be traveling with our dogs, and she doesn't have the space to accommodate them for an entire week. I also said that my wife and I didn't want to cram together on a small couch to sleep for the week. So, she asked if my wife could stay at mother-in-law's house with the dogs, and I could stay at hers. I told her that I would be staying with my wife, and reiterated that we would be willing to stay at her house for a night or two. Eventually, she said fine, and the call was over. She started texting me more, and I told her that I would prefer our contact remain low right now, considering we are coming off of no contact. She agreed and didn't message me for the rest of the day. This morning, while I was at work, she called me. I had a bit of free time, so I answered and let her know I wouldn't be able to talk for long. She proposed to me that she come stay at our place the week of my surgery to help take care of me. I told her that I appreciated the offer, but that my wife would have it covered. I reminded her that we have one bedroom and that I would prefer to be left alone as much as possible while I recover. I had to go, so nothing more was said, but when I got off work, I saw that I had 17 unread text messages, 16 from my mother and 1 from my wife. To preface, the message from my wife said, "Oh Lord, she's on one." The messages to me started with her talking about how she's more than happy to stay on the couch, or even book a hotel for the week, and come to our apartment before I woke up and after I went to sleep. At that point, she began messaging these plans to my wife, but told my wife that I had already agreed to those plans. My wife simply responded, "I haven't heard from him, so I'll talk to him when he's home." She then went back to messaging me and told me that my wife said she would prefer my mother's help in taking care of me. Then she texted my wife that I said I preferred she took care of me. The messages to me then changed to saying that my wife actually wanted to go home during this time to visit friends, so her coming to take care of me while my wife already planned to be gone would work perfectly. And her messages to my wife said that I wanted only my mother to take care of me and that I thought my wife should have fun and see friends back home. My wife responded with, "I don't think that's true." And then she re-blocked my mother. I told my mother that I wasn't going to offer another chance. That she was already blocked on my wife's phone and that if she messaged me about this again, she would be blocked on mine again as well, and that when I visit home, she is not someone I will be seeing. I only got around to sending that message an hour ago, after dealing with heavy storms, so I guess we will see what comes of it. And trust me, I know that the right answer might be to not give another chance and block her now. But I'm truly interested in seeing if my mother has started to understand things a bit better. I'm trying to give her the benefit of the doubt by thinking that after being blocked for so long, she's just overly excited, and maybe that's silly of me. But I guess we will see what tomorrow brings. Top/relevant comments. Commenter. I see you plan to draw a line about excessive texting. That's awesome. But what about the manipulation and outright lies? Are you going to address those behaviors? Man, the second my mom starts the triangulation BS, we are done. I will not be lied to. And also, how dumb does she think you are? That you'd just believe her when she said your wife would be traveling? Super nuts. I wish you luck. Ops response. I do plan to address it. I'll probably message or call her about it today. Right now, I have her notifications on mute and can't see if she's texted or called me unless I actually open her messages, which I won't be doing until after work. Not sure what she expected to get out of lying, or where her head was at. Did she expect my wife and me not to discuss it when I was home? Story 2. My parents made all of my birthdays for the last 8 years about my little sister. Now the rest of the extended family is seeing what a spoiled little brat she's grown up to be and tore into my parents for being the awful parents they are. Posted by you/Black Sheep B-Boy. I recently saw a similar story online and realized I just had to tell my own. This will be my one and only Reddit post, and I'm posting it because I thought telling it would help me feel a little better. I've been to some counseling, and talking about this in particular really helped. So I thought, why not just tell it online too? So I am. I'm 18 this year and fairly recently on my own from my parents. I have a sister about 10 years younger than me. She was an unplanned pregnancy and nearly didn't make it to term. I don't know many of the details of how rough my mother's second pregnancy was, since I was never told much. But I do know that it was so hard on her body that my mother could no longer have kids after my sister was born. She was in and out of the hospital repeatedly that year. My mother almost didn't survive the birth either. It made her and my father latch onto my little sister because she could have potentially never been born. And ever since then, I felt like I was just the other kid in the house, except for when they needed me as a free babysitter. The level of favoritism my parents showed long-term has me believing they were genuinely sick in the head for not noticing exactly what it was doing to me. And now it's rebounding on them, which I'll explain here. Starting with my 11th birthday, my parents wanted me to let my sister blow out my candles because she was 2 years old and cried at the sight of a birthday cake that wasn't hers. I didn't want to do it, but my parents forced me into it. They relit the candles for me to do it again after her, but the moment felt completely ruined. The same thing happened the next year, and the year after that, and so on and so forth. They just kept forcing it until it became the norm. My sister had to have presents on my birthdays as well. I never got any on hers. And when I asked why, they just told me that I'm a boy and boys don't need to worry about it as much. I know I was a kid, but did they really think that was a smart thing to say? Not really. And my parents would always choose a place my sister would like more than me for my own birthday. Eventually, it became more like my sister was getting 2 birthdays a year, and I got none. Beyond this, my parents made their entire lives revolve around my sister. If there was something I wanted to do, my sister had to want to do it too. Otherwise, it was vetoed unless I could do it alone. I learned to just lock myself in my room with my video games because they didn't seem to bother me there, unless my sister wanted to come running in to annoy me. Hence why I put a lock on the door. My parents wanted me to remove it, but I freaked out because I was an angry teenager who was tired of being intruded on at any given time. My sister came running in more than once when I had no clothes on, and my parents were upset at me for being naked, in my own room. When I pointed out how ludicrous that was, they withdrew their objection and just let me keep the lock. My sister developed quite the princess complex because of how she was being spoiled on a daily basis, and she was very demanding. So I stayed away from her as much as I possibly could, whatever excuse I could use to not have to deal with her. Even if I had to make stuff up just to have time to myself. My parents hired a teen girl babysitter, and I got more personal time. And then the babysitter quit because my sister wouldn't listen to her, and my parents tried to keep from paying by saying she did a bad job. The girl got some other people involved, and my parents finally paid her what they owed her. Then they hired another girl to babysit on the regular, and this one stayed. But my parents still made it clear that I was to be watching my sister any day I had free, which I went out of my way to make busy at my part-time job if I could. My sister treated me as her personal butler and ordered me around. She even had a stupid nickname for me she wouldn't stop using. Just hearing that nickname makes my blood boil. And if I didn't give her everything she wanted, she'd cry and call our parents. And then I'd be in trouble for mistreating her. We had many massive arguments because of this. And after I refused to yield anymore, my relationship with my parents devolved into barely any words spoken between us for some time. And yet, during my high school graduation, they had the nerve to brag to other parents that they were the reason I worked so hard. Well, they weren't wrong, but the reason they were thinking of was not the one that actually happened. I worked hard just biding my time for when I'd be free. But my parents acted like they'd done so much. Maybe they did before my sister was born, but afterward, it was all about her. They didn't even ask me about school until parent-teacher conferences came up. I graduated with a B and C average. And after my graduation, my parents just took me to some place where my sister would always have more fun than me, even though the trip was supposed to be for me. On my 18th birthday in July, though, things really boiled to the surface. Even though it was my 18th, it didn't feel like it was about me at all. I hoped to God that we were going to my favorite restaurant for once. But no, they had the party at the local knockoff Chuck E. Cheese, which is the only place like it nearby. So it was the default celebratory destination whenever anything big was achieved, including my high school graduation. I did say it was a place my sister would enjoy more than me. I was surrounded by kids half my age having parties, and I was so bored with nothing to do but eat mediocre pizza and play claw machines and dated arcade games for tickets to cheaply made prizes that brought me no joy. Then, when it was time for cake, my parents came out with one that was pink with white flowers on it. Sure, it had my name on it. But it was very obviously not a boy's cake, and there were only 10 candles. My parents lit the candles and set it right in front of my sister to blow out. That's when it finally happened. I just had this mental moment of all the pent-up hate flashing before me, and then I just started ugly crying. I, an 18-year-old boy, was crying in front of the whole family. Everyone was so shocked that time seemed to freeze. I got up, and all of the stuff I'd been holding in for the past 8 years just spilled out like word vomit. The entire family got to witness this event. And when it was finally over, I just walked outside to sit by the family car. Several relatives trailed out after me to say they were sorry and that they didn't know about the pink cake because my parents kept it covered until it was served. I said it didn't matter that they didn't know. They all sat back and watched as my life was taken over by Little Miss Sunshine for the past 8 years. I had no real birthdays or celebrations of my own, they were all about her. And then, on the biggest birthday of my life, they all expected me to just smile and nod like always while they handed my sister a cake that was entirely meant for her when it wasn't even her birthday. Some of them started giving me apologies, but they made the excuse that all this time they just thought I was okay with it because my parents said I was. I told them I was never okay with it, and my parents forced it on me every year until I just pretended to accept it. I spread my arms out and said to look where we were. Did it look like the place I wanted to celebrate my graduation and 18th birthday? No one even tried to stick up for me all this time. I'm just the other kid while my sister gets everything. I didn't even get to have any of my friends there because my parents stopped letting me invite them long ago after they tried to voice their opinions over my sister getting to blow out my candles. There are 365 days a year. Was it so bad to want one that was about me and not her? Instead, I'm treated like the greedy, entitled brat for wanting my own birthday. Then I just went back to ugly crying. My father came outside by that point to yell at me for making such a huge scene, because my mother was crying too. My sister was upset because I ruined her moment, and now everybody in there thinks they're bad parents. I ended up yelling at him that they are bad parents, and he should know exactly why. Well, after I said that, the rest of the family descended on him like a pack of wolves. Better late than never, I suppose. But I'd never seen anything like it before. My father was practically backed right up to the restaurant's front door. And then most of the crowd flooded back inside with him to have it out with my mother too. My grandparents stayed with me and apologized for having their eyes shut so tight for so long. I don't know what was said to my parents in the restaurant, but it was roughly a half hour before they came back out. And when they did, they looked incredibly defeated. My mother was still sniffling after crying so hard, and neither of my parents could look me in the eyes. They both awkwardly apologized for what they did and then offered to redo the party elsewhere. But that wasn't really enough for the crowd. One of my uncles chewed them out rather strongly, and my parents said they'd never make me let my sister blow out my candles again, or give her presents on my birthday, or make any part of it about her. And my parents also apologized for getting a cake that was obviously not meant for me, and that they just felt like I wasn't worried about cake anymore at my age. Oh boy, was that the wrong thing to say. I became furious all over again and yelled at them that my age was irrelevant. They'd literally given my birthday to my sister and had no good reason as to why, and they knew it. Then I said there was no point in redoing the party because it's too damn late. They clearly showed that I mean nothing to them. They ruined 8 years of my life until I became an adult. What future birthdays with them could I possibly look forward to? Well, my father started to get angry at me for saying that. But when the entire family yelled at him, he shut up. My grandfather told him I was exactly right, and there is no possible way they can undo the damage done now. He said my parents were awful people, played favorites, and treated me like a black sheep ever since my sister was born. And what's more, they were all awful themselves because they just let it happen too. And I'm owed far more than an apology. I was owed my life back. My mother broke down again and tried to come closer to me, crying my name and apologizing. But I refused to let her anywhere near me, and half the family body blocked her from getting close. I just said I couldn't take this anymore and started to walk away. One of my aunts chased me down and brought me back. I could hear multiple family members yelling and cussing at my parents over what happened. But I was so upset, I couldn't even feel happy for any bit of justice after all this time. Also, where was my sister when this was all going on? She was still in the restaurant all by herself, eating cake and ripping open presents that were there for me. And if anyone was wondering, yes, my parents served her some cake after I cried and walked out. You'd think doing that wouldn't be their primary focus in the moment. But they were called out on it later. My grandparents got me to calm down and sit in their old minivan while everyone else cleared out the party. My sister threw a huge tantrum after being caught opening my presents, one of which was a brand new smartphone that she threw against the wall and broke because she wasn't allowed to keep it. She literally just got a brand new phone on her own birthday a few months earlier. I ended up being so upset that I was ranting that I never wanted to celebrate my birthday again, and my grandparents let me stay the night over at their house. When I came home, I still didn't speak to my parents. My mother just kept crying because I wouldn't talk to her, and my father was as closed-mouthed as me. The following weekend, my grandparents convinced me to go with them out to dinner. And when we got there, I was surprised to find a whole new party waiting for me. My parents were there, and they kept up with having the "don't hate us" smiles on their faces almost the entire time. There was a big chocolate cake with 18 candles on it, and there was even a banner with my name. They called it my happy belated birthday graduation party because I didn't really get either this year. I did kind of have to pretend to be happy. One good party doesn't undo 8 years of favoritism, or even make a dent in it, really. And where was my sister? She was sitting at the table with her arms folded and her lip curled because it wasn't all about her like it used to be. And rather than sing happy birthday for me, they just sang an altered version called Happy Day. Then, as soon as I blew out the candles, my sister screamed. I mean, an ear-bleedingly loud little girl scream. My parents had to rush her out and then bring her back in later, looking more upset than ever. She quietly pouted in her seat for the rest of the party. I did still get a new smartphone as well, and my sister got hers taken away, among other things, for what she did at the prior party. But the smartphone wasn't all. The whole family had chipped in and gotten me a car. It was just an old white Volvo, but I loved it the moment I laid eyes on it. My grandfather knows a thing or two about cars and fixed it up himself. I was so happy. But my sister clearly was not, because she let out another one of those screams. She started having a massive tantrum and demanding a car too. My mother had to take her into the bathroom, and they didn't come back out for a while. My father just went back to looking defeated. My sister had effectively ruined their attempt at trying to look good in front of the whole family. Multiple family members also had strong words for my parents, saying that my sister was acting that way because they raised her to be a spoiled princess brat. I obviously started driving the car around right away. But only days later, my sister actually vandalized the car by taking a hammer and breaking 2 of the side windows and cracking the windshield to the point the car was undrivable. My parents managed to stop her before she did any more damage. But she screamed bloody murder when they grabbed her and took the hammer away, then tried to bite them. Oh, everyone was furious with my sister, especially my grandparents, because my grandfather had put so much work into that car, and my sister ruined it while having a massive tantrum. My parents had spoiled my sister so badly that she couldn't mentally comprehend that I could have something she couldn't. And several other family members laid into my parents about how they were setting my sister up for failure by making her an entitled brat who expects the world to be given to her. And she's going to have a terrible adult life because they won't put their feet down and teach her some respect. Well, her actions didn't go unpunished. My sister was grounded for the rest of the summer and, effective with the new school year, was sent to boarding school. My mother cried like a baby about it too, but my father had to be adamant that it was the only way to start undoing the damage they'd done. Yes, they fully acknowledge they are at fault. It was kind of hard for them not to since no one sided with them at all. My sister is absolutely miserable at that school. She hates the clothes, she hates the rules, and she's been lying almost constantly. But with cameras almost everywhere now, she's not getting away with any of it. Our parents tried to visit her a few times, but she just screamed at them for putting her in that place. From what I hear, this may be her school life until she's 18 years old. My parents did pay to fix my car. They had an auto glass company replace the windows and windshield, and it looks just as it did before. In August, my grandfather came to me and said if I was interested, he found me a job working for a friend. But it was 40 miles away, so I'd need to move out of my parents' house unless I wanted that commute. I was all for moving. Finding a first apartment wasn't so easy, though. I had to get approved for a credit card just to get accepted for a studio. But I got it. And I have been living where I am now since September. My parents keep trying to contact me, but I rarely speak to them. Anytime we do speak, I just feel awkward and uncomfortable. My grandfather has suggested that they simply don't want to acknowledge how badly they failed as parents, and trying to get me to forgive them will make them feel better about themselves, or something like that. But I'm not going to forgive. Not anytime soon. I'm finally happy and away from them. Now they've got nothing. They don't have me, and they don't have my sister. And my parents had to take more hours at work because boarding school for my sister is not cheap, nor, I imagine, was the party they had to throw for me or the repairs to my car. Empty house, angry relatives, and the only thing they have left is their work. Feels like incredible misery to me. And I don't take delight in it. But it is the result of their own actions, after all. Edit. I'd like to thank everyone for all the awards I've received. It really means a lot to me. I know my post was long and a lot to read, but I just needed to get the whole thing out. And I feel a lot better after having done so. I noticed a few people calling this post fake in the comments in various ways. I don't blame you. I'd be highly skeptical reading this and wondering the same things if I were in your shoes. But I lived it. Some parents really are like that. I've also been contacted by a few people who went through similar, and even far worse, situations. With all the bad parents out there, is it really all that unbelievable what mine did? Granted, the whole family running back into the restaurant to have words with my parents did seem like a stretch. But I come from one of those close-knit families where we stick together a lot and do things in groups. And it can very easily turn into an entire group against one person at gatherings. I've seen a drunk cousin be surrounded and then removed from the party to sober up in another room because he was being highly inappropriate. I'm not exactly a fan of group mentalities myself, but it ended up saving me because my parents were shamed beyond words for what they'd done. They couldn't even form a proper reason as to why they did what they did to me without sounding like even worse people. So they've basically surrendered, saying they have no excuse and are heavily trying to get on my good side. And while a lot of you are praising my relatives for how they helped me, I'm pretty sure a lot of that help was out of shame. They were there for most of those 8 birthdays, save for 2 years because of COVID. But in those other 6, they didn't do anything. They had disapproving looks on their faces when my sister got to blow out my candles, but they just stayed quiet. Why? Well, my dad is the son of the head of the family, my grandfather. And my grandfather is a fairly intimidating person. Be on his good side, and he'd do whatever it takes to help you. Be on his bad side, and the entire family hates you. A good reason why I don't like group mentalities. But once my grandfather basically said they were all at fault for not doing anything to help me for years, they all felt shamed. And they all chipped in for the cost of my car. With so many relatives, they didn't have to donate much each to afford it. I had the receipt for the car when I registered it in my name. They bought it for $2,000, and then put more into it for some parts and tires. My grandfather personally gave it a tune-up and changed the fluids. My grandmother deep cleaned the interior. I'm extremely thankful to them all, but I still want to distance myself a bit. I need time to work things out on my own. And I probably won't see my parents again until Thanksgiving or Christmas. Some have also compared my sister to Eric Cartman from South Park. And it's a pretty close comparison. My sister is chubby because my parents fed her a lot of junk food. She hates eating anything healthy. I once saw her put gummy bears on mashed potatoes. The thought of eating that combination turns my stomach. Her poor diet also made her spend long periods in the bathroom. My parents had to buy fiber snacks for her to eat just to remedy that. And I don't think they were cheap to get the ones that actually tasted good. My sister is also extremely bossy and likes to think she's in charge. She ordered me around near constantly, which is why I often locked myself in my room to get away from her. She lost a lot of friends for being so bossy and controlling. And my parents would just tell her that the other kids were jealous of how special she was. My sister even referred to herself as a princess often. And the epic tantrums she had when not getting her way do remind me of Eric Cartman. I know my sister isn't stupid, either. She doesn't try very hard at all and had a C average in school. If she actually applied herself, she'd probably be a straight A student. Update 1 year later. It's been, what, a year now? I didn't log back in for a long time because I thought I was done here. But then one day, I decided, what the heck, and just popped back in again, only to see numerous private messages asking for updates. So I'll give one. What I'm about to tell you is mostly pieced together from what my parents and grandparents told me. So if it sounds too crazy, just remember I'm basically retelling what I found out. Yes, I am doing fine. But the same cannot be said for my parents and little sister. My sister, sometime after my previous post, attempted several things in order to get out of boarding school. After none of her lies and schemes got her anywhere, she tried to simply do nothing. But that didn't work out. Then she tried a hunger strike. She said she would refuse to eat anything unless our parents came and took her home. My mother nearly jumped in the car to go rescue her baby. But my father had to stand in her way and remind her that my sister's behavior was their fault. My sister's hunger strike didn't even last 2 days before she was demanding food in the cafeteria. She wasn't allowed sweets or snacks unless they were healthy, especially since a pediatrician warned my parents that my sister, Little Miss Sunshine, was at risk of future diabetes and even possibly having her growth stunted unless she got her weight under control and ate foods with proper nutrients. As in, no more gummy bears on mashed potatoes. Of course, my sister tried becoming a bully to the other girls in the boarding school. But they didn't take her crap. One day, she picked a fight and got beaten up pretty badly when she was set upon by multiple other girls at once. And as a crowd, they kicked her until they were broken up by a teacher. My sister didn't suffer any serious injuries, but she was scraped and bruised all over. Yes, she blamed everyone else but herself. And I heard she actually stated that the other girls should just do as she says. They did not. So she was shunned by them. I heard she had quite the tantrum over it. She'd gotten her way with everyone for so long that it was mentally inconceivable for her to not get what she wanted. My mother repeatedly snuck junk food to my sister at the boarding school, and my sister got caught with it. My parents had a huge fight about it. But my mother didn't try to sneak her any more junk food once the jig was up. My sister was, and still desires to be, a junk food addict. That's right, she's barely changed in the past year. Are any of you really surprised? I'm not. She's only slightly better in the fact that she's somewhat more accepting that she's not the center of the universe. Her schemes to get out of boarding school only escalated. After only a few months there, she resorted to self-harm to try and get her way. She somehow got her hands on a knife in the cafeteria and stood on a table threatening herself with it unless they gave her candy and sent her home. Yes, she didn't just demand to be sent home, she wanted candy too. I did say before that I'd seen her put gummy bears on mashed potatoes in my original post. Her favorite thing to put gummy bears on was food she didn't like, because that was the only way our parents could get her to eat them. Can you imagine gummy bears on salad? It kind of defeats the point of salad. But she regularly brought a bag of gummy bears to the table when we ate. I can't even look at gummy bears without remembering. Well, my sister was brought what sweets they could scrounge up while they tried to talk her down. But at some point, she slipped and fell off the table. The resulting fall broke her left arm and her clavicle, and she had a forehead concussion. At this point, even the boarding school had had enough of her and didn't want her to return once out of the hospital. In fact, her attempt at ending herself only landed her in a worse place, a mental ward for children. She's been forced into therapy and diagnosed with a heavy case of narcissism she was raised into having. She cannot leave the ward unless my parents take her out. They've also forced her to continue her schooling from there and keep to a very strict healthy diet. It could literally be described as her personal hell. My mother wanted to go to the ward and get her precious baby out. But she and my father got into a huge fight about it. And in that fight, she hit him with the nearest thing she could grab, which happened to be a bottle that was on the kitchen counter. The bottle broke on his face, cracked his cheekbone, and cut him up pretty badly. Police were called, and he had to be taken to the hospital while my mother had to be carted away in the back of a police car. My mother ended up getting psych evaluated and committed for several months herself. And she was forced to confront her own fierce desires to enable my sister. Turns out it stems from serious mental traumas my mother had from her own childhood. But no one else knows or will tell me anything more than that. There was, and still is, talk of future divorce from my parents. But neither of them has gone any farther than sleeping in separate bedrooms so far. As for me, well, my 19th birthday wasn't that long ago. My grandparents threw me a party at a restaurant they know I like. My parents attended, and so did my sister. She was briefly allowed time out of the ward. And I could see the pure bitterness in her eyes. She sat there looking just like before, lip curled and glaring at me like she wanted me to be on fire. She'd lost a fair bit of weight by then since she hadn't been allowed junk food for so long. And her diet plan is going to continue for some time to come. In fact, the junk food from my birthday party was the first she'd had in a pretty long time. But she still couldn't stand not being the center of attention. This time, when I blew out my candles, she did not scream. Instead, she began ugly crying. I can tell you right now that this was just more of her manipulation. She was just crying and saying why, over and over again. I know she's only 9. But remember, last year she was 8 and demanding a car of her own just because I was gifted one at 18. She can't even get a learner's permit till she's 15. At my 19th birthday, my sister got on the floor to tantrum that there was no pizza, no gifts for her, no prizes, no nothing. Then she started cursing at our parents before trying to storm out of the restaurant. She was basically trying to copy what I did last year, in her own twisted way. You can say I'm thinking too hard about that. But I know my sister. And if she thinks doing something will get her way, she'll do it. My parents just apologized to everyone and then took my sister home early. But not before my grandfather went over to speak to them. I got some details from my grandmother later. He told them that they better not take my sister to party elsewhere or give her what she wants, because this will never end if they don't stop for good. After that, my sister was taken out kicking and screaming because she'd heard everything and realized her tantrums didn't work. She was driven back to the ward the next morning. And that's where she is now. I have no idea how much longer she'll be there. She's just a kid, but the most stubborn one I've ever seen. She'll likely not change until she reaches her lowest point. And until then, she's going to be stuck in a place that does no enabling of her demands. No one, not even my parents, has attempted to put any blame on me for my sister's actions this past year. They've had to accept that I had zero fault in this and that they raised my sister to be a narcissist. And enabling a narcissist is also a form of addiction, from what I've seen and heard. My sister has not been diagnosed with any sort of mental illnesses aside from narcissism. In fact, she's smarter than me from what I've heard. She was tested with an IQ of around 110. She just doesn't like to apply herself unless there's some kind of reward in it for her. She was raised this way. And I'm guessing it'll take years to make her better. As for me, well, I'm doing well on my own. I admit, I had to learn to properly budget and take care of all my own necessities. It's not easy to adult. But it's still 1,000 times better than the life I had living with my parents and sister. /relevant comments. Op on her sister's IQ and mental illness. I was told by my father that my sister's IQ was 110, and I tested lower than that as a kid. It doesn't really matter to me, though. I've moved on with my life. Yes, my sister may be as you describe, but I'm no expert in mental illness. I specified that what I shared here was mostly what I heard from family. The only part I experienced firsthand was her behavior at my 19th birthday. I'm likely kept in the dark about a lot, and I don't feel like pressing for more details. However, my father has confided in me many times over the past year about my sister's behavior and actions, like her getting beat up for trying to be a bully. He and I have been meeting occasionally for lunch ever since my mother was temporarily committed herself. I honestly don't like my sister at all and will probably feel that way forever. It's not complete hate, as I know my parents made her what she is. But what big brother wants their sister to be committed to a ward for life? Either way, I'll likely have very low contact with her for the foreseeable future, no matter how much better she may get. I was mentally scarred by her, and she probably still wants me to be a princess. Second update one day later. To start things off, I'm an idiot. Some of you questioned my saying my sister is smarter than me, pointed out loopholes in my posts, and all of that. Well, I had a D and C average in school, and math was my worst subject. It was pointed out that I mistakenly and repeatedly stated my sister's age wrong. I am at fault for that. I usually just tell people she's 10 years younger than me, and when talking about her, the numbers often just blurred together. I guess doing the math correctly on paper this time, I was technically 7 when my sister was born in June, and she first got to blow out my candles when she was 3. I am so bad at math, and it doesn't help that I tried to keep some details either vague or slightly wrong just to remain anonymous. But then in retrospect, this isn't exactly very anonymous because anyone in my family could read this and know it's me. I really screwed up. And from the moment my sister was born, everything was about her. This isn't just some lame jealous older brother stuff. My sister may not have gotten to blow out my candles until she was 3, but even before that, she was also celebrated just as much on my own birthdays, in front of everyone. And I grew extremely resentful. Imagine the birthday boy sitting there while his mother just flaunts a baby in front of everyone because the gathering gave her an excuse to show off. I was basically ignored by my parents until it was time for cake. My grandparents made up the difference, so it wasn't such a bad memory at the time. They even told me it was slightly understandable because my sister had just been born a month prior, and my mother had such a hard time with the pregnancy. But then that's also how things went down on my 9th birthday. And no one said or did anything about it. Then on my 10th birthday, my parents basically did the same thing and flaunted all of my sister's baby accomplishments before anything really happened for me. And then some of my gifts were obvious toddler toys that were only enjoyed by my sister. I remember them being called extra gifts. And even though my name was on them, they weren't for me. Again, no one in the family said or did anything about it. Then on my 11th birthday, that's when things became truly bad. There were gifts with my sister's name on them, and my parents insisted Little Miss Sunshine be allowed to blow out my candles. Everyone saw, and they all did nothing. And following this, the birthday venues were always oriented toward my sister. And sometimes she was even allowed to help me unwrap my presents too. It wasn't help. They just wanted me to placate her. Now multiply all of that to my 18th birthday, and you'll understand why I finally lost it on everyone back then. That's why I say my birthday was taken over for 8 years. But in reality, it was more like 10 years. My parents admitting fault really wasn't enough for me anymore after that. I try to act like I can forgive them, but I'm not sure I ever can. Someone else pointed out to me that you cannot be diagnosed as a narcissist until you're 18. I'm pretty ignorant about this sort of thing and took my father's word for it. So I called my father this morning and spoke to him about it. He first asked me how I knew, and I just responded with Google. He sighed and admitted my sister was showing signs of possible future NPD and some other things. But an official diagnosis can't be made yet. There is also a strong possibility of a mental disorder my mother apparently also has, and they won't tell me what it is. My parents finally admitted my mother was diagnosed with both said disorder and PTSD months ago. The PTSD was triggered by some childhood traumas my mother will not disclose. Nor am I asking her to, because whatever it is, it's pretty bad. When I asked my father why I was told such simplified details and white lies, he got angry and told me it's because my sister is their problem, not mine. So he just thought I'd let it go if he told me that. Then he said they need to be the ones to worry about my sister. I just need to focus on my future and forget about having to deal with Little Miss Sunshine ever again. It's sadly one of the most logical things he's ever said to me. As for Little Miss Sunshine, there's no clear time frame on how long she will be in that ward. But I had another question for my father that someone else alerted me to hear, and that was if my sister had ever spoken of wanting to kill me while there. The answer was kind of a middle ground. My sister did blame me. However, she blames our parents more. Her main beef with me was her belief that what's hers is hers, and what was mine should also be hers. She's even jealous I have my own apartment now. That led to other rage tantrums and demands, wanting the same things I have. Therapy has subsided her rage bit by bit over time, which is why she was allowed to be at my 19th birthday. But her behavior that day escalated all over again. Ever see a toddler say mind to anything it sees? Well, my sister has a mind complex with my birthday. And that's 100% on my parents. My sister did and still does believe she is entitled to my birthday because it's been that way as long as she could remember. That's why she screamed last year. That's why she freaked out this year. In her mind, my birthday has always been hers. My parents have asked me to please leave the situation alone, and that my sister is going to need a lot of time to be treated. And there's no guarantee she'll ever get better. My mother's in therapy herself, and her own disorder is medicated now. She's often lethargic from the medication. She somehow didn't lose her job when she was temporarily put in a ward herself after hitting my father with a bottle. Her boss is a very sympathetic person and allowed my mother to work from home after getting back. Although it resulted in lower pay and some kind of demotion. There is another detail I'd like to clarify that I did not mention in my last post. My birthday this year wasn't the actual date of my birth. Instead, we celebrated on the day of the belated party that was held for me last year. Which is fine with me because the actual day of my birthday has been forever soured for me. I was born basically at the end of July. The belated birthday was held a week later in August, and that's the day I wish to celebrate from now on. Lastly, people keep asking how I am doing. I was doing fine, if not pretty decent. I admit it's been hard to adult, paying my bills, learning to manage my finances, and all that. But I was fine. Then somehow, my coming back to Reddit to talk about this has made me stressed and, what's the term? Mentally relapsing, I guess? I'm not sure. I thought I was all good, but now I'm edgy and cynical all the time. My boss even sent me home early for the day because of it. They're well aware of my past, but I still feel terrible. Just having coffee this morning sent my heart pounding. I think I'm going to have to search local support groups for free counseling or something. I am on a budget, after all. But for the moment, I'm just trying to relax and take my mind off life. I might end up stressed like this all over again if I return here someday. So I may not. I thank everyone who read my posts and understood my pain. You're good people. But I really need to get myself together and put my past behind me. Story 3. My parents blocked me and told me to stop being so bitter when I told them they've treated me unfairly compared to my golden child sister all my life. Posted by you/impressive_mix_2559. My sister is my dad's golden child, and no matter how much I try to get him to see me as her equal, it never works, and I believe she takes advantage of it. Usually, it's not much of an issue, but this week some things happened that were the cherry on top. I'm hopefully getting married next year, and she asked if she could invite her in-laws because they will be visiting the next time she comes over. I said okay only because my parents are paying, but I know she just wants to do it for the attention. So she will have at least 4 people from her in-laws there and will surely parade them around. Also, my parents are about to have a big anniversary in November, but they are postponing any celebration because my sister, who lives overseas, doesn't want to travel so far until things are calmer. But last month she went on holiday to a country next to hers. I was having lunch with them and my fiancé when they informed me they are moving their big celebration to next year, and I couldn't handle it anymore. I said to my dad, "Of course you will postpone. We should all stop living until she is here." He said it was uncalled for and that I was making a big deal about something that had nothing to do with me. My mom said they will, of course, have something intimate and that I was just as important, but I don't believe it. I stood up and said to my dad, "I am so sorry the love of your life is not around, but the most important woman in your life should be your wife, not your daughter." After that, I left. The next day I felt bad and tried to call my mom, who refuses to speak with me and just sent me a text telling me I was bitter, hurtful, and need help. But they, and particularly my dad, hurt me with their desire to give her such a prevalent role in their lives when she has lived abroad for like 10 years. My dad blocked me, and my fiancé is worried they won't pay for the wedding anymore. My sister, trying to be the center of the universe as usual, tried calling me, but I didn't reply. I gave it a few days, but my parents haven't contacted me. My sister stopped trying to get in touch with me, but she contacted my fiancé to check on me. I visited my grandma today, and she told me I need to apologize because my parents love us both but we are different and therefore got different things. So I began to wonder if I was the jerk. I just want some days where I am the most important person to my parents and still believe that my sister's golden child status should be addressed and corrected. But maybe I was the jerk for the way I expressed it? Edit. I am 26M, and my fiancé is a woman. English is not my first language, sorry. I also want to clarify that I don't think my parents are bad people, just bad parents. Edit 2. This has been a long time coming. My sister, 33F, and my dad have a little club. She's smart, reading since she was 4 and all that. Since she was very young, my dad used to take her to visit his clients in a nearby city, and sometimes she would stay with one of his best friends who owned a bookstore. She has a very large book collection that my parents refuse to throw away, even when I tell them to send it to the woman, my dad's best friend, or to my sister. They talk almost daily and discuss economics, politics, etc. I'm not interested in any of those, and yes, he tried to take me with him, but I was always bored and did things like going to my games or getting us stadium tickets for our team. But I feel he likes her more. My mom, on the other hand, has ups and downs with my sister because they are very different. The last issue was my sister's weddings 5 years ago. Yes, she had 2, one intimate where she lives and another in our country. My mom wanted to have her dresses made from a special fabric, but my sister put a budget limit on how much the dress was going to be and even wanted to wear the same dress for both events. They had an argument, but in the end, she had 2 dresses, but within the budget. She didn't even let me bring my girlfriend, now fiancé, because she wanted it to be intimate, but there were like 50 people there. My mom told my fiancé she would be buying or making her dress, singular. My mom and fiancé have a very good relationship, so I'm sure my sister was involved somehow in convincing her of that. My sister has a PhD that my parents paid for and doesn't work in the family businesses at all, only consults sometimes and pretends she doesn't want to be paid for it. My parents supported her until she got a job, and every time she graduated with her master's and PhD, we had to go to Europe to be there. I work in a family business, so I know they have to talk to me eventually, even if they're angry. I could give more and more examples of their favoritism towards her. I also don't hate her, I just wish she would let me shine on my days. And yes, the wedding would be a gift, but if they were willing to pay for 2 weddings, many dresses, and a honeymoon, then I deserve the same treatment. Edit 3. In case anybody wants to know, you might be happy about this. I got a message from my dad telling me to join a family Zoom call, to say everything I want, and everyone would take turns. He said if I didn't attend, he would pull out his funding from our business, so I had to go, but I told him I would ask my fiancé to join too. It was me, my fiancé, my parents, my sister, and her husband. The moment I connected, I noticed my sister was pissed. I was the first to speak. I told them all my feelings and even brought up the fact that they are treating my wedding differently, and also what some commenters brought up about my parents possibly leaving the businesses to my sister. I spoke about how hurtful it was that they seem to prefer her, that they talk to her about serious things, and she gets so much attention, and they all think she's great, etc. Nobody said anything or interrupted me, which is very uncommon in serious family talks. Then they asked if my fiancé wanted to say anything, and she bravely said she felt she was not part of the family and had always thought they saw her as a daughter, and she stands by me. Then it was my mom's turn. She told me she was sorry about my feelings, that they tried to do things I liked, and that they love us both equally. She said it was sad I pretended everything was okay and that they didn't know how deep it went, but she still thinks I need help. She then told my fiancé that she loves her, but my sister is her only daughter. Then it was my dad's turn. He said he is sorry I feel like he doesn't like me, but he isn't sorry for loving his kid. He said I didn't mind the tickets, cars, or even living in a house rent-free, and he is disappointed. He said everything they own will be divided 50-50 when they die, and if I don't want my sister to have anything to do with our business, then I can buy him out. He said they will pay for my wedding no matter what because it's something they always wanted to do for their kids, but they are not happy with me. He also told my fiancée that she should be grateful and not greedy. By then, I was upset with the lack of apologies and the attack on my fiancée, but I held it. Then my brother-in-law told me he didn't know how I felt about his family and that he just assumed his nuclear family would come, just like I was at his brother's wedding. He said no hard feelings over it. Then it was my sister's turn. A thing about my sister is that when she is truly angry, she doesn't swear or scream, she is just really cold, hard, and straight to the point. She said she could feel me distancing around age 10 to 11, when she visited from university and I wasn't included in some conversations with my dad. She said she accepted being my guardian at 18 if our parents died, so she had to be brought up to speed on all matters and didn't want to stress me out. She said she could have been a better sister and was sorry I grew so full of resentment, but that her career path had nothing to do with me. She reminded me I was offered the chance to go abroad, but I didn't want to. She also reminded me that I had gone on holidays with her and let me know those holidays were paid for by her or her husband, not our parents, news to me. She said she asked me about her in-laws coming because they need to plan their trip around my wedding. She said my fiancé and I had only been together for 7 months when she got married, and she didn't want our parents to have to pay for her trip. She said the reason she doesn't want to be paid for consulting is because she thinks it's not right, but that next time she'll invoice me her actual hourly rate since I'm so insulted by it. She said she went to the Netherlands, from Germany, because she was truly burned out and that it's pathetic to think it's the same as taking a 10-hour plane. She said our grandma was the one who told her everything I said because our parents tried to protect me, and that she's done with me for now until I get therapy. And the last thing she said was that she loves me but doesn't like me at all right now. This is obviously a summary, but the way she said things is something I've seen her do to people, never to me, and I almost cried, but she had no warmth in her eyes. My parents said they can help me get therapy or I can find it myself, but if I don't try to help myself, the wedding is the last thing I'll get from them. What made me feel worse was how my sister spoke to me. She's never talked to me like that, even when we argued, so I know she's serious. I got my bum handed to me. Yes, I am jealous and the jerk. I'm upset my fiancé is crying, but I think I need to evaluate what my next move is. Also, we're from Latam. Update 1 day later. I haven't been able to sleep and decided to read all the comments again. I tried calling my sister because, even if yes, I am jealous of her, it still hurts me the way she talked to me. She refused to talk to me, but I was able to speak with my brother-in-law. He said the reason she doesn't want to talk to me is because I hurt her deeply, and she feels emotionally drained by me and knows that if we talk, she will say more hurtful things. This made me realize how much I love my sister, and that the problem is me. I still have bad feelings and feel I've been slighted. I can't say I'm magically a different person, but my family has never talked to me like they did, and my sister has always defended me, and I thought she did it to look good. I'm beginning to think maybe she actually loves me. I am very confused. My brother-in-law is an amazing man too, and he told me to just get help and give it time, but I'm unsure what to do or where to go. He told me to research therapists and pick one, and he would help me choose if I want his help. He also said I should stop thinking my family doesn't care, that they are not perfect, but they do their best. But he also asked me what my fiancé's family is contributing to the wedding or our lives, and I couldn't think of anything. She lives with me, works with me, and her parents are not paying anything because they say my family is better off. I don't know where that will go, but I did tell her I need help because I became a monster, so no wedding until my family issue is fixed. She is crying but said she understands. My grandma said she told my sister because my parents just told her there was an argument, but not what I said. Looking back, what I said is disgusting, and I feel bad about it. She said my family wouldn't react so strongly unless they love me a lot. I asked my dad if I can take some mental days off, not a thing in my country, and he said it sounds like a good idea and reminded me they love me and just want me to be happy, not just pretend to be happy. Also, the books are in her walk-in closet in her bedroom at my parents' house. They still have a lot of my stuff in my bedroom, and my parents said I'm welcome at Sunday meetings whenever I feel ready to go. I also must admit that she had 2 weddings because my parents asked if she would be willing to do so. My mom wanted to get her super fancy dresses, and in the end, they got 2 dresses for about €600 because my sister put a limit of 300 per dress. I think maybe I'm jealous of her because she's actually better than me. I just don't want to feel like this anymore or hurt my family anymore. So I guess I can thank Reddit for the hard comments. I have so many issues and so much jealousy about my sister to get over, I don't know where to start. I'm beginning to doubt if I'm even ready to get married. But if the comments had been full of support, I probably wouldn't have seen it. And of course, my family call was really something hard to be in. Second update 3 weeks later. It has been a very interesting time for me and my family. I wanted to share because you, Redditors, are brutal but fair. Some told me I ramble, and yes, I do, so I'll try my best this time. My family, after taking some days off work to process it all, my brother-in-law found me a therapist and I started immediately. We have also done group sessions and couple ones, meaning me and dad, me and mom, me and my sister. It has helped me see all the issues, and we are learning to communicate better as a family so nobody, me, feels unloved or unappreciated ever again. I now know I have a long road ahead, but I want to be better. My parents say they just want the best for me and want me to feel loved. Also, I am moving back home. After high school, I moved out because I wanted to do things like my sister, but I feel this is the best option, so when my parents gave me the opportunity, I thought it over and agreed. Baby steps, but good ones. My sister, she didn't talk to me at all for about 10 days, and this might sound stupid, but it is the longest she hasn't communicated with me ever. It hurt me a lot, and I knew I hurt her a lot. In our session, she showed me a list of many messages people sent about me. They were all positive, praising my talents and all. She said we are different but great in our own ways, and the reason I usually don't hear how great I am is because people don't praise me directly. She also told me that most of the time, when something happens that my parents know she might give me crap about, they simply don't tell her so I don't have drama, and joke maybe I'm the true golden child since they shield me. She is talking to me again and has helped me a lot. Am I still jealous of her? Yes, but I want to transform that into admiration. My ex, while I know my feelings are mine and I'm responsible for them, my ex did throw gasoline on the fire. She was always the first to point out anything my sister got that I didn't, or how much money everybody spent on things, etc. Long story short, we broke up. Long story, I told her I was considering moving back with my parents and maybe getting a master's or something like that. She was not pleased and kept asking about the wedding, but I told her I could not think about marriage at this moment and maybe we could also use a break. I also told her I would give her 3 months to find a place to stay or she could pay rent on the house, my parents own it. She was very angry, told me I had to marry her, and if not, at least let her live rent-free and cover utilities and food because I was breaking up out of the blue. I told her that was why I was giving her 3 months and she could use her salary, since she didn't use a single cent while we were together. Then things got weird and bad. She told me she was calling her family, not leaving the house, and would sue me for mental distress. I panicked. She said the same back in the day when I tried breaking up, but then convinced me she was the only one who loved me. But this time I called my family, and they told me to lock myself out of the house and call a friend of my sister's. He came and told her she can sue, she can do whatever, she's not getting anything, and that my offer of the 3 months was off. He wanted her out ASAP. He took a video of the state of everything and told her if things are damaged, I would sue her. Turns out my sister told him this might be coming, so he got info from her and was prepared, and did it as a favor to her, since they are kindergarten friends. A couple of my cousins stayed with me until she left days later, and her dad told me I would go to hell. She is still working in the company and will have a job as long as she performs, but I have no relationship with her at all anymore and haven't been to the office. Yes, there is nepotism and my family hires each other. But nobody would take away her job because she does an okay job and is always on time. I hope she finds love again, just not with me. And me, I am single, at home, and most likely unemployed in the next few months since my parents say I should focus on myself and my mental health. My brother-in-law has been one of my rocks through this and he truly cares for all my family, and we are becoming true friends. My grandma let me know nobody liked my ex and she's happy we're not together anymore. She said they all started disliking her when she got upset they didn't get her expensive things for our first Christmas. My friends also told me they didn't like her. Turns out everybody wanted it to end, and some said so jokingly over the years, but they thought she helped me out and made me happy, so they dealt with her. I hope I get better luck in love, but I need to be better too. I might take up the offer to start over abroad, but I feel more positive. And yes, my sister and I are trying to find common ground. She truly is amazing, and the more I get to know her and her flaws and weird things like her lemon juice obsession, the more I like her. At the end, speaking my truth got me what I needed, and while I was a huge jerk, now I can admit how privileged I am. Still not perfect, but a little less jerky. Top/relevant comments. Commenter. Your ex sounds like she really helped you out with your resentment and jealousy, and it looks like all she was after was your money. Notice how she didn't feel bad when you were upset over your family issues? All she asked about was the wedding, that's it. She didn't support you when you truly needed it, and she only made your negative feelings worse. So I'm glad you broke up with her, because she would have only dragged you down further. Third update 2 months later. Hello, my brutal but fair friends. I wanted to give you my final update before, but a Redditor let me know about a very cruel post mocking me, and it sent me into a spiral. I'm lucky to feel stronger now, and I want to update you mainly to conclude this chapter of my life, and also because I have received a lot of support, kindness, and love. I feel it's just the right thing to do. I'll also try to keep it straight. My ex, since I left the company, we haven't talked much, but she became upset when I told her I wasn't coming back and that we would be selling it. My dad made a deal with a friend so that every employee who wanted to would get the option to stay for at least 3 years and keep their position without being demoted. I told her that, but she said it was unfair, that people already treat her differently, and that she feels people like her less. I told her I haven't said anything, but I know people weren't crazy about her before, and it doesn't surprise me that now that she's no longer related to any boss, they're not putting up with her. We had a big conversation about my future, and it became obvious she wasn't with me for the right reasons. My sister, I told her about my posts and she asked to read them. After a little thought, I gave her my username. She said she wanted to check it out and that we could talk about it later. She was very upset that people were mean to me, but very thankful that people called me out because I really needed that. She said her lemon juice thing isn't that weird and teased me about it. In getting to know her more, I've also learned things, like the fact that they lost 2 babies, but I was never told because I didn't seem interested in their life, and she was afraid I wouldn't take it well. It broke me. It made me realize my sister is really a human and not a myth, and she has suffered things I can't even understand. It made me really ashamed that I wasn't there for her because I was being selfish and arrogant. Even in her pain, she thought of how I would feel, because yes, my sister does love me. She's assured me she loves me unconditionally, and now she's starting to like me again. My brother-in-law and parents, my brother-in-law is an amazing man. I really hope that one day I become like him in my own version. I get more and more why he truly deserves to be with my sister. He is full of love and patience. We had a long conversation about them having kids, and I told him to please not think I'm an obstacle. He was really moved because he said they were considering not trying at all until I was better. But I know in my heart I would not forgive myself if I prevented them from having children. My parents told me that now that I'm making changes in my life, they'd like to spend seasons in Germany, and the only reason they hadn't before is because they wanted to stay close to me. Turns out they wanted to be close to me all along, I just was too stupid to notice. I'm moving to Germany. I've decided to try something new. My sister and brother-in-law are helping me with all the paperwork. I'll be going under an applicant permit, and I feel very happy about it. My parents are helping me translate my documents, legalize everything, and more. I'm applying for a master's degree and will get support from my family, the sale of the business, and a little job my brother-in-law got me. I'm just finalizing things and will be moving at the end of the year. My sister owns her own apartment and will host me until I find my own place. I'm already taking German classes, and my brother-in-law helps me practice. That is the reason I know without a doubt my ex is not for me, because when I told her I was moving to Germany, her only question was whether she could come too and whether my parents would be willing to help her out since she doesn't get a wedding now. She's been posting things about how my sister destroyed her life with her schemes, but my sister's friend sent her a notice letting her know we would sue her. She stopped naming my sister and now it's all passive-aggressive posts without her name. I apologized to my sister, but she only asked me if I'd ever get back with my ex. When I said no, she told me she couldn't care less about what my ex did. I'm working very hard on my mental health. I know it may take months or years to reach a place where I feel zero jealousy, but I also know it's for the best. I haven't started dating again, even though some friends suggested it, because I want to be a worthy man and I'm moving, so I see no point right now. My therapist is amazing, and since we do sessions online, it shouldn't be a problem. Sometimes I reevaluate memories and realize people did like me, did love me, did care about me, but I just couldn't see it. My sister is truly extraordinary, and I couldn't see it because I didn't truly know her and was so focused on myself. I now know that I'm also extraordinary in my own way, or at least, she keeps telling me that, and I should stop comparing myself to her or anyone else. I never really appreciated how much my parents thought of me or did for me, but now I know, my family loves me. We're not perfect, and I'm not perfect, but I will never take them for granted again. I'm looking forward to a better future, a better relationship with my family, and, if I'm lucky enough, a new nephew or niece. Thank you for all you have told me and for being the kick I needed to change my life. I'm very grateful I came to this site. 4th update 7 months 2 weeks later. Hello to the few asking about an update. I recently read all my posts, and I feel very ashamed and proud of them. Ashamed because I was such an idiot, and proud of the progress so far. Things have changed a little, but it's all positive for us. My parents, they now do seasonal or short stays in Germany. We've taken up small hobbies together like wine painting, and we keep getting to know each other better. My parents might eventually move here, but that's still unclear. The celebration of their anniversary is still postponed, but they went on a very fancy trip as a second honeymoon, and they don't seem to care much about the party anymore. My brother-in-law, He's my brother now. I also became friends with his brother, and they introduced me to their football and pool groups. I've since made other friends too, but I still hang out with them a lot. My sister, she says she likes me again, which honestly is the best feeling in the world. They're planning to start trying again soon, and I'm just excited for them. Sometimes, when I feel any jealousy, I actually tell her, and she walks me through it step by step to help me understand where it came from. We've had arguments, since we're human, but nothing major or lasting, and I feel like she's more comfortable with me now. My ex, I don't keep up with her. We were supposed to be friends, but she was so negative that I simply blocked her everywhere. All I know is that she's dating someone else and telling everyone she's glad she didn't marry me, which, honestly, same. Me, I got into the program I wanted. I arrived at the end of 2021 and stayed for a bit with my sister and brother-in-law. There was a lot of debate about whether I should stay in the same city, but I decided to do so. I moved out and decided to give student life a try, but I still see my sister at least twice a week, and the same with my parents when they're here. I'm still in therapy, learning ways to improve, and I bike everywhere. I've had a couple of flings since I arrived, but I still don't feel ready for a relationship. I want to find a partner, but it's scary, and I need to be able to do so without being manipulated. 1 year ago, I made a disgusting remark, and now it feels like my life is just going up. Thank you, guys. /relevant comments. Commenter. I feel like I just watched a coming-of-age movie. I've been that jealous sibling. I'm rooting for you. Commenter 2. The part she is so glad she didn't marry me, which, same, makes me cackle lol. I'm so glad you had such amazing growth. I relate to you somewhat, so seeing the strides you made to change is honestly so great to see. Good luck. 5th update 2 years 6 months later. I recently showed this to my girlfriend, and she's surprised by how everything unfolded. I'm very happy and love my life now. I'll be an uncle soon, I'm almost done with my new degree, and I have a great relationship with my family. This is for the few people who ask for updates, probably the only ones reading. No drama or anything bad to report. And now I'm also obsessed with lemon juice. Thank you, Reddit, for kicking my rear and helping me improve my life. /relevant comments. Commenter. These kinds of updates are honestly why I love this subreddit. Sure, there was a ton of drama and jerkiness, but that's not the reason. Just being able to see the progress, over more than a year, of a troubled young person who was flailing before it became too late to save him? I'm glad this family sorted itself out, and I think her brother will be alright now. I hope that Op's sister safely gives birth to a healthy baby. Story 4. My wife hates that I'm so close to my mom and told me to choose between my mom and her, so I think I'm going to choose to divorce her. Posted by you/twa4. A little background, my 34M, mom, 55F, and dad were both orphans. My dad died 2 weeks before I was born. My mom didn't really have a support system, so it was just the two of us. I never lacked anything because my mother worked all her life to give me the life I have today and didn't even have time for herself to start a new life again. She did all the little jobs possible so that we didn't miss anything. She deprived herself of food to give me food. I had very good clothes while she had none. I saw her make sacrifices again and again, always with a smile. Frankly, I always thought she was an angel dressed in a human body. The only time she yelled at me was when I was 16 and saw her getting sick and working at the same time. I wanted to help her by finding a job, but she was angry and told me it was not my job to take care of her, it was up to her to take care of me. She wanted me to get really good grades to get into the best universities. It was the only way I could protect myself when she couldn't anymore. Even at university, she didn't want me to work. I had to be focused on my studies, but she wanted me to volunteer so that I could be an adult who could do something with his hands. I met my wife, 31F, there while both of us were volunteering. My wife is a good person, but she was never close to her parents or her siblings. Yet she adored my mother since she met her. There were times when I thought she loved my mother more than she loved me, and we laughed about it. Deep down, I think she was looking for the bond between mother and daughter that she didn't have with her own mother. When I finished my studies, I found a job, and we moved in together, but she wasn't comfortable with me calling my mom every day, mind you, those were 10 to 15-minute calls. Eventually, she stopped bringing it up. 2 years later, I bought a house for my mother because we never had a house in our name. We lived from apartment to apartment, so for all the sacrifices she made, it was, for me, the least I could do, and it was non-negotiable. That's when the problem started with my wife, then girlfriend. She wanted me to think about us first. I told her my dream had always been to buy my mom a house since I was little, and that's what I had to do. But she complained about it to my mom. My mom didn't even know I bought the house for her, as it was supposed to be a surprise for her birthday. She was uncomfortable receiving the house because of my wife and told me it wasn't necessary, that we could use it for ourselves when we got married. I was furious. I told my mother that the house was for her, that she could do with it whatever she wanted, but it was time for her to think about herself first. Our relationship survived that. We got married and then had our own house. Our life was going well until 2 months ago when my mother fell ill. I wanted her to come and live with us so I could take care of her, but my wife didn't want to. I then decided to rent an apartment with my own money right next to our house so I could be close to her and take care of her. But even that idea didn't sit well with my wife. My wife and I don't have children yet. We both work. I usually come home at 6 p.m., but since my mother is sick, I go to see her and come home at 8 p.m. On weekends, I see her for 1 or 2 hours, and I spend the rest of the time with my wife. We go on dates, and I always accompany her in her hobbies, even though she never joins mine. 2 days ago, she told me she had thought about it and felt I prioritize my mother too much. She told me I had to choose between my mother and the life I want to build with her. The truth is, I never made her feel that way. We both work, but I'm the one who cooks, and I pay someone to do the housework. I make sure I cook the dishes she likes. She doesn't even know what I like to eat because I never complain. I run her baths, give her massages and flowers, write her poems that I hide around the house for her to find. We go on a trip 1 weekend a month. I earn much more money than her. I told her to keep her money for herself and I take care of all the bills, even hers. I always make sure to listen to her and consider her opinion, and I think I'm easygoing because I can change my mind to accommodate hers. But I realize that she tries to completely dominate me, and the only subject where I don't give her a choice is my relationship with my mother. So now I'm going to have a talk with her and set some very clear boundaries. If she doesn't want to accept them, well, we're going to divorce. Just wanted to get it off my chest. /relevant comments. Commenter. I'm sorry that your mother isn't doing well. I, 44F, feel like I can relate to this situation from both sides. Your wife is resource guarding. She doesn't like that your money, which could be her money, is being spent on your mother. Your money is one resource. She also doesn't like you spending so much time with your mother. Your time is another resource. To me, ultimatums are manipulative at best and abusive at worst. If she doesn't like the situation, she has a choice, and she can leave if she wants to be black and white about it. That said, you have a partner. As much as you care about your mom, you are making a lot of unilateral decisions to benefit your mom without much, if any, consideration for your wife. It's not sustainable in a healthy way for you to be at your mom's every night for hours. If she needs care, then perhaps hiring some in-home health care resources a few days a week, at least, would be wise. Beyond it taking a toll on your marriage for you to be over there daily, you're not a trained caregiver, and depending on what your mom's needs are, a professional might be best for help with bathing, toileting, cleaning, and cooking. Also, you're at risk for caregiver burnout because you have very little time to yourself and are being pulled in different directions. I have dropped everything to care for a family member and left my husband cross-country for a few months to do so. But I'm also a trained provider, and it was a short-term situation until we could get care organized. I do feel like I understand your situation. But I can also appreciate why your wife feels the way she does. I think she's being rather crappy about how she's handling it, but her concerns seem valid to me as well. Perhaps a couples counselor could help. But at the end of the day, when someone gives me an ultimatum, I call their bluff. I won't be bullied like that. I think you could find a compromise, but it's not about choosing one person over the other, and the fact that your wife thinks that's a reasonable ask makes me question her humanity. Commenter 2. I actually fully support you choosing your mom given that ultimatum and this situation. However, you went on to say one very wrong thing. You said, I never made her feel that way, and then told us all the things you want to brag about yourself. You invalidated everything your wife feels and basically said you disagree, so her opinion does not matter. This tells me there is a lot more to how your wife feels than you know or what you are telling us. You basically called her a liar with that line. So you do what makes you happy, but there is zero need to call your wife a liar for how she feels or pretend it is entirely impossible you did anything to contribute to it. That is delusional. Commenter 3. I feel like there's some missing info here. You spent this whole post talking about what a great son and husband you are and how incredible your mom is, but not one redeemable quality about your wife? Why does this read like she's the third wheel in your relationship with your mom? You don't come home until 8 p.m. every night, but somehow also do everything for your wife and cook all the meals? That doesn't add up. When your wife put up a reasonable boundary, not wanting to live with her mother-in-law, you thought renting an apartment near your mom and fully leaving your marital home was a good idea. No one wants to be in a relationship where they aren't a priority, and you've clearly shown that your mom will always be your number one, even over your spouse, and even before she got sick. If that's your priority, that's your priority, but don't act surprised that your wife wants to be included in these big life decisions you're making without her. I totally get wanting to take care of your mom, but if she needs daily care and you can afford it, then you should look into a home health care aide because working full-time and taking care of her every day will burn you out. Also, It sounds like this wasn't discussed before marriage, but talking about worst case scenarios, like where your mom will live when she gets old or needs help, should have been discussed and agreed upon before now. Also, you bought your mom a house while you yourself were still renting? That's weird. Update 19 days later. Before confronting my wife, I had time to reflect, and I came to the conclusion that I will never again let anyone in my life dictate the relationship I should have with my mother or the time I should dedicate to her. So I decided to respond to the ultimatum, but first, I wanted to know if there was another reason she gave it to me. She replied, nope. I asked her if, apart from what she blamed me for, there was something she wanted to tell me but couldn't. She said there was nothing and asked me to get to the point, so I told her I wanted a divorce. She remained frozen. I think she was shocked because she wasn't talking, just staring at me. I told her everything that was on my mind, that our values were too different, that I was going through the worst moment of my life. My mother was sick. We had done several tests with her, but we still didn't know what she was suffering from. We didn't know her family medical history because she was an orphan. It made me anxious to think that, overnight, I could find myself alone in the world. Yes, alone, because in these difficult times, all I needed was her support. But if my own wife thinks that I should give less attention to my mother, who is sick and needs me more than ever, then it's time to go our separate ways. She still didn't say anything, so I told her I was going to a hotel for now, and we'd discuss later how to separate. I took some of my things and left. The next day, when I went to see my mother, she figured out something wasn't right. But I wasn't going to tell her I was separating from my wife because she couldn't bear it, especially while being that sick. I didn't want to add more torment to her. I never discussed my marriage issues with my mother anyway, so she doesn't know about our problems. Honestly, she adores my wife too much, and my wife behaves as if my mom were her own mother, so I wasn't going to tell her what my wife was really thinking behind her back. My mom ended up telling me that my wife didn't come by that day. Yes, the same wife who asked me to reduce contact with my mother had been seeing her every day, and I never asked her to do anything for my mom. She calls my mother Mom. When she got sick, she used to go to my mother so she could take care of her. That used to hurt me because it was as if I couldn't take care of her, but she said it wasn't the same. A mother's care is different. I told myself it was her way of creating a mother-daughter bond she never had, and I understood her. She even said her mother once told her she wasn't supposed to be born, that she was an accident, that she almost terminated her, and regretted not doing it. Only a monster could say that to their child. So I never said anything whenever she wanted my mother's attention. Besides, I had received enough love to share with anyone who wanted it. After I left home to study, my mother became a foster mom for children. She did that until 2 years ago. I have always loved each of the children, with whom I still keep in touch and whom I consider my siblings. Once a year, we all went on vacation together for a week, my mother, the children, and my wife. I generally take 2 months of vacation, 6 weeks of which I devoted to my wife. But the 2 weeks I spent with my mother and the children, that was too much for my wife. Anyway, I'm rambling. When my mom told me my wife didn't come to see her that day, I went back home because I was worried. I found her in the bathroom, fully dressed, with red eyes like she had been crying the whole time. Seeing her like that was unbearable. I helped her out, and this woman, who is so much pride, collapsed in front of me, crying a lot. I don't know if it lasted an hour or two, but she kept crying, calming down, crying again. I just stayed silent. She ended up telling me that, deep down, she never wanted me to be less involved in my mother's life. She was always jealous of our relationship, always jealous of the attention my mother gave to the other children. She knew it wasn't rational, but she couldn't help constantly striving to be number one in my mother's heart. It was a kind of competition for her. So when I wanted to take care of my mom, she didn't want me to be the one doing it. I was honestly furious, without saying anything, of course, but I wondered if she was a psychopath or something. We're talking about a person who is seriously ill, and she's thinking about her damn competition, even if it means sabotaging the relationship I have with my mother and putting us in a situation where I wanted to divorce her. She told me she was very jealous of me, that she would have liked to be in my place. If she had to choose, she would have even preferred to be my mother's child rather than my wife, even though I was the love of her life and the only man she's ever known. She also told me that even if the world falls apart around me, I remain stoic. That I live as if I don't need anyone, and that I give everything to others but don't know how to let others reach me. She said she never managed to get there, only my mother could. At that moment, I didn't know what else to say. I was fixated on this idea of competition, so I didn't immediately grasp the full scope of her words. But I still listened to her until the end. I put her to bed until she fell asleep, then I went to sleep in another room. In the morning, she was acting like nothing had happened. She said I didn't have to pity her. I told her it was out of love, she was still my wife. She went to work, and so did I, but I decided to stay at the hotel for the time being. During that time, I wondered what I could have done, said, or how I might have acted to make her feel that way. Deep down, I think she's right. It's a defense mechanism I've had since childhood. I never stayed in one place long enough to make friends. It was heartbreaking every time we had to move. Between the ages of 5 and 15, I moved more than 50 times, from apartment to apartment, from hotel room to hotel room. Since then, I think I've always lived my relationships like a squat. I never unpacked or settled in because I knew I could be kicked out at any moment. But I thought that with my wife, I acted differently, but I guess not. So I thought maybe we didn't need to go that far. Maybe what we needed wasn't a divorce but therapy. Then this happened. A little over a week after our discussion, I got a call from the hospital. My wife had been hospitalized, she apparently wasn't feeling well. I went to visit her, but she didn't want to see me. If you could have seen her eyes, I've never seen so much hate in just 2 eyes. I informed her best friend so she could have her support system since she didn't want me there. I told my mom, and she asked me what I had done to my wife to put her in the hospital, that I shouldn't stress a woman who was pregnant. I said, "What?" She told me my wife had told her and asked her to keep it a secret because she wanted to tell me herself when she was ready. I didn't know what was going through my head, between the anger that it was my mother who told me, the happiness of becoming a dad for the first time, and total confusion at the surreal situation. I went to my wife and told her I knew. But she looked at me again angrily and told me she had lost the baby, and that it was my fault. In an instant, I found out that my wife was pregnant but had kept it from me, that I was going to be a dad, that we lost the baby, and that she was accusing me of causing something I didn't even know about. She asked me to leave, and I did. I've always wanted children, very early on. My wife wanted to focus on her career first, and I understood and accepted that. I'd been trying to convince her for years but without success. Now she gets pregnant, doesn't tell me, talks to my mother about it, and then says I caused her miscarriage. Since then, she said she didn't tell me because she first wanted to confirm whether I could handle all the responsibilities I give myself and still raise a child. I don't understand her. And I admit, since then, I've had a fierce hatred toward her. I don't know how to look at her without feeling angry, and I don't want to hurt her with my words. I take care of her at home, but we don't talk to each other. I'm not going to stay with her, it's not possible. I've started seeing a psychologist. He told me that patience was my best weapon, that I shouldn't make a permanent decision based on emotions that might be temporary, and that I should take time to see if there's anything to salvage. That's where I am. I don't know if I'll give another update. I took days off to be there for my wife and for my mother, but I'm feeling pretty depressed and just want to get away from all this BS right now. Top/relevant comments. Commenter. You and your wife both have extremely unhealthy attachment styles. Regardless of whether this works out or not, keep going to therapy. I don't think your wife is evil, by the way. I feel like I followed your post and reserved any emotional response until the end. Oh, I have so many things I could say, but for now, I'm sorry you're in pain and in the middle of all this. Focus on yourself. Take care of yourself. The rest will be there to deal with when you're ready. Commenter 2. Listen to your therapist. They're the professional, and they're right, there are a lot of seriously high emotions right now. And you want to bolt. Just take a breather. You can still go through with the divorce, and regarding a miscarriage that early, it's not from stress, it's usually due to genetic or chromosomal abnormalities where the child wouldn't have survived. Using this against you is ridiculous. However, just take a step back because you are spiraling, and there's a lot to sort through. If you're going to get divorced, you need to be calm and think rationally. So, for the time being, just give yourself 2 weeks to come down off this roller coaster so you can think clearly again. Commenter 3. A lot of people who demonized you in your original post are eating their words right now, yikes. Weaponizing a miscarriage for a pregnancy you didn't even know about, man, run away from this one and don't ever look back. And your wife wanted to crap test you to see how you would be with the responsibilities of children? With how much you and your mother have done for foster kids your whole lives? Really? Really? Again, move on and never look back. Sorry you had to go through that, and I hope your mother is doing better. Second update 3 months 3 weeks later. Hi folks. It's been a while. I didn't intend to post again after my last one, but even though it's been months, I still get support and people asking me where I am in my life. So I think I owe you at least one last update because your comments and DMs helped me a lot during a time I needed it the most. I don't know if it's going to be long or not, but let's go. About my wife. After she had a miscarriage, yes, she was definitely pregnant, I had to take care of her because she couldn't do it on her own. After what happened, I had nothing but anger and hatred in me, but as I said last time, if something is fragile enough to break, you have no choice but to treat it gently. I didn't want her to break. I didn't want to leave her in the worst time of her life. So I did my duty as a husband. Despite everything, her mental state was getting worse. She thought she was still pregnant and was talking to herself. One night she was delirious, mistaking me for her father and thinking that I was going to hurt her. I had to call the emergency room, and after an examination, a psychiatrist advised me to have her hospitalized. That's what I did. She spent 6 weeks there. She was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. Doctors suspect delusional disorder too. And they also suspect that she was heavily abused as a child, but that's all they were allowed to tell me. She didn't want to see anyone, especially her family. She suggested that we communicate through letters, and every time I went there, I took her letter, then the next day I dropped mine. It's crazy, I have the impression that in 2 months, I got to know her better than in the 10 years I spent by her side. That reminded me how good a person she used to be despite her flaws. She used to travel to participate in the construction of schools, wells, anything that could help people who lived in precarious conditions. She didn't just give money, she helped out with her own hands. She's the type to help a foreigner who doesn't speak the language catch his train until she misses her own. Honestly, she was like a gold mine with lots of resources and kindness in her. Although we had money, we used to enjoy taking public transport to remember the time when we were penniless and enjoyed life just because having each other was enough. We would travel without taking money and challenge each other to see how far we would get. That was the best moment of our lives. We were very close and in love. We thought nothing could break us. What has changed since then? We tried to figure it out in the letters we gave each other. We talked about many things. I won't go into details. She owned up to her mistakes, and I owned up to mine. She took full responsibility for the consequences of her actions. She apologized for how she treated me and knows that the only possible outcome is that we divorce. She needs to heal and work on herself. She said she has a long way to go and that it wasn't fair to me. She said that given her condition, I wasn't going to talk to her about a divorce. She had to do it herself. There are some battles she needs to fight on her own, otherwise, she will never be the best version she could be. She doesn't know how long it's going to take, but if she gets there and I haven't moved on, then she'll be happy to start again with me. I've always lived with the idea of fixing broken things rather than throwing them away. But that doesn't work with humans. You can't fix someone unless they want to be fixed. And I wouldn't have had the strength to fix someone because I'm putting all my remaining energy into trying to fix myself. If my wife hadn't made the decision she made, I myself would have proposed a divorce. Paradoxically, it was because she made the decision she did that I saw there was hope for us. I then offered her a separation rather than a divorce. And a year from now, if we still want to get divorced, we'll get divorced. If we trust that we could be in a healthy relationship, then we'll get to know each other again, communicate, and try to do things differently. She agreed and said that was what she hoped. When she got out of the hospital, she didn't want us to meet because if we saw each other, she wouldn't have had the strength to keep her resolutions. For my part, I had not yet let go of all the negative feelings following the events that happened before her hospitalization, so in the end, it was best for both of us. We chose to continue sending each other letters, and that's fine with me for now. She was able to see my mother. She wrote to me what my mother told her, that she will always be a mother figure to her, despite the bad decisions she made, and that she didn't have to compete for her love because she already had it. And that's one thing that will never change. She asked me if I was okay with her being in touch with my mother. I told her it was up to them, she didn't need my consent. However, she was not likely to see my mother too often because I had decided to go to another country with my mother so she could benefit from one of the best hospitals in the world, which is in Europe. About me. I've been in Germany for almost 1 month now, we are from France, and I'm learning to delegate work. It's a resolution I made during my therapy. I needed therapy, and it was especially you guys who convinced me. I will always be grateful to you. The therapy sessions were so heavy and tiring that I didn't have the strength to do much after leaving my therapist's room, but it got better over time. I am currently working remotely. I go back to France once a week to settle things at work and continue my therapy sessions because I don't want to change therapists. I've managed to devote time only to myself, which is actually good. One of my foster brothers wanted to come with us to Germany since he also manages to work remotely. He is a great help. In short, I'm getting better and better. About my mom. This is probably the most difficult subject to discuss. And I admit that I don't really want to talk about it, but I also think that talking about it here is good practice to be able to talk about it in my life. Years ago, we lived from apartment to apartment, hotel to hotel. This was one of the worst times of our lives. The state always found us a place to sleep because we were a single mother and a child. It wasn't stable because we had to change places every time, but it was better than sleeping outside. My mother was, and still is, a very beautiful woman. It happened that she received sexual proposals for an apartment right in front of my eyes. I don't know what she went through with my dad, but she never wanted to be with another person because she says death doesn't stop a loving relationship from continuing. There was an association that used to take care of us by always finding us a place to stay at night. One day, one of the people in charge of finding us places to sleep wanted us to stay in his apartment while they found us a better place because we were in a very unsanitary hotel. My mother didn't want to go, but I convinced her to because the idea of sleeping warm in a good bed was all I could think of. But after we had dinner at his place, he started making moves on my mother, who stopped him right away. He told us it was either that or we get out of his home. So we left. We went back to the hotel we were in, but our room was already taken. There was nothing we could do, at least that day, so we chose to sleep outside. At some point, while sleeping, we were woken up by a group of men who were trying to SA my mother. They hit me so hard that I was even afraid to try to help her. Some other men, whom I guess came back from a party, heard the screams and came to help us. Our attackers fled. I always said that my mother was almost SA'd, that's what I always said and I ended up believing it. But my mother was indeed SA'd before my eyes. I finally said it. My mother was SA'd before my eyes, and I couldn't do anything. If that day we had thrown ourselves into each other's arms and cried together, maybe things would have been different. But she got up, took my arm, and told me that this place was not safe and that we had to look for a safer place. That was all. We never talked about that day again. We carried on with our lives as if nothing had happened. Things got better eventually. She worked hard so that I could be successful. She invested all the money she earned in her entire life in my project, and today I owe her the company I created. How did she manage to survive the hell she'd been through? Ever since I came to terms with the idea that she was SA'd, all I wanted was to tell her about it. But it's not about me, it's about her. She's the one who experienced the worst. I would so much like to talk to her about it, but I don't know what good can come out of it after so many years. That's it, that's all. As for today, her condition is improving. The future looks brighter than it did a few months ago. Well, I think that's all. This will be my last post. To all who have followed me during those hard times, I thank you from the bottom of my heart and wish you the best in your life. May what you have left to live be better than what you have already lived. Story 5.
I feel like my parents don't give a rat's crap about me because, after my sister attacked me for thinking her boyfriend was cheating on her with me, they sided with her and told me to leave and give her space, so I don't know what to do. Posted by you/throwawayasis. I don't know if I should be asking for advice because I honestly don't know what to do. For more context, my older sister is 22, and her boyfriend and I are the same age, 19. I'll call my sister Kate and her boyfriend Adam, which are not their real names. So, Adam and I were initially acquaintances. We were both in the same year in class in high school and are now in the same university studying the same thing. We were never close enough to be friends, but after he started dating Kate, we did become friends, okay friends, since we have a lot in common. I must mention I have no interest in or any feelings for Adam. But when Adam and I kind of became friends, my sister didn't like it, which is understandable, so I kept my distance like she wanted. However, Adam and I still had to speak because we have a few classes together, but we only really talk about school or when it has to do with a class or anything Kate related. So, Adam had been invited by Kate over for dinner, and he asked me if I wanted a ride home in his car since we were still going to the same place after all. I didn't think much of it, so I agreed. We had just come from evening classes, and it was dark out, and I was too exhausted. Most of the time during the ride, I was actually asleep, so we didn't even talk at all. But when we went into the house, I was heading up to my room when Kate grabbed me, pulled me back, and asked why Adam and I came back together. Adam immediately tried to tell her why, but she started shouting at him, telling him to stop talking for me and to stop defending me too. Her shouting caused my parents to rush over to us. She then started screaming at me, telling me to stop being jealous and to find my own man to drive me home. She said she's noticed everything and hates how I think every man wants me, and she called me desperate too. She was also tightly grabbing me, digging her nails into my wrist, which hurt, so I yanked my arm away and she shoved me. Adam tried to hold her back, but she began to scream and cry for him to stop defending me and that he was her boyfriend and not mine. My parents tried to calm her down, but she was shaking and breathing heavily and fast. She was also looking at me, and I felt, and still feel, so shaken up by the scene. My mom started yelling at me to leave the room until she was better and said that I was triggering her more by being there. I felt confused and accused. I tried to tell them that I had no idea what I did wrong and tried to explain, but my sister started to make these sounds while shaking, panting, and glaring at me, which honestly scared me. My mom yelled at me to leave again, and I did. I heard them ask Adam to leave too, and he also did. He later texted me and asked me if my sister was okay, but I honestly have been too scared to leave my room. I feel a bit scared that my sister might do something to me. I've honestly cried a lot, and I feel shaken up because of seeing my sister like that. I don't know if it was a panic attack or a breakdown, but she looked more angry than anything. I feel a bit responsible for her having such a reaction since she told me before to stay away from Adam, so I wish I had never taken the ride home with him. I don't know who to talk to about this, and I'm still in my room. I know I've said this a lot already, but I'm genuinely scared to leave my room because of everything. And I feel like my parents both think it's my fault for my sister acting that way. /relevant comments. Commenter. Her insecurities are not your problem. If you're scared, see if there's anybody who will house you. I actually think you should do that now because those types of girls will try to hurt you. You need to have a conversation with your parents, and don't let them gaslight or manipulate you into thinking you did anything wrong, because you didn't. Ops response. Thank you so much. Right now, I don't really want to talk to my family, since I feel like if I go to them and my sister sees me, she might act that way again, which I don't want. Regarding my living situation, I don't know if I feel comfortable living with anyone next to me, since I'll feel a bit like a burden. Commenter 2. So, Adam should run. Your parents sound like enablers, and you should be very cautious of your sister. Commenter 3. The parents were not enabling. They recognized that the sister was not rational and wouldn't listen at that moment, so they removed a source of agitation from the room to allow the sister to de-escalate. Source: I do this for a living, and it's what I would have done. Commenter 4. Is your sister normally like this, or is this strange/out of character? This honestly sounds like she might be having some sort of mental health episode, especially given your mom telling both you and Adam to stay out of Kate's sight because she was being triggered. You are 100% not in the wrong for anything, but you might want to steer clear of your sister. Stop trying to explain or defend yourself, just keep your distance for your own safety. If she's mentally unwell, there's really no reasoning with her. Paranoid delusions can seem very compelling to someone experiencing them. Ops response. She's always been a little bit possessive, and Adam is her first serious relationship, so I kind of feel like she's new to feeling like this. It's not too strange, since she does have anger management issues sometimes, but it was my first time seeing her have such a reaction. Thank you for your advice. Commenter 5. Is there any chance your sister is jealous of you? Ops response. I don't know if she's ever been jealous of me before. I never even saw this situation as jealousy, but everyone in my comments is saying otherwise. My sister and I are just okay, we're not the closest. We used to be, but over time, obviously, we drifted. Plus, she's older, so she's been away for school a lot. We've never liked the same guy, at least, not that I know of. And Adam is her first serious boyfriend, the other guys she talked to never really made it past the talking stages. I feel like she probably thinks that way because Adam and I are the same age and have the same interests and other similarities. I'm now considering staying with my friend because the situation is only getting worse for me at the moment. Update 8 days later. Sorry for the delay in posting an update. I had taken a break from my phone and social media due to harassment I'll mention later in this post. I'd like to thank everyone who gave me advice and encouragement. I didn't really expect it, so I'm very grateful. I would first like to begin by saying that everyone was right. I should have left my house for some time after Kate had such a reaction towards me. So, after Kate's meltdown a week ago, Adam actually started keeping his distance from Kate and our family. I did too. I'd only leave my room to go to school or to get dinner, which I had in my room. My mom also advised me to do that because she was worried about how Kate would treat me, especially since Adam wasn't talking to her much at the moment. But he would still text me occasionally if he had something to tell me in terms of school, but he wouldn't even ask about Kate. So, about 3 or so days after that happened, I was at school and got a text from Kate, and she basically told me that she hated me and that if I came home that day, she'd actually kill me. I was so confused. I didn't know what I had done since I hadn't spoken to her for some time. I forwarded the message to my parents, and I was also upset since she was threatening me out of nowhere, plus she was insulting me a lot too. Kate called me, and when I answered, she was crying and screaming at me, saying it's my fault and that I never want to see her happy, and that I took away someone so important to her just because I don't have a man for myself. I tried to tell her first that I didn't know what happened, but she kept saying, "Liar, it's your fault," over and over. Then, when I hung up and went to ask Adam about it, he told me he had hid things because Kate had started not only calling his phone a lot but also his parents. She was also texting his friends on Instagram, asking them to talk to him so that he would talk to her again. Adam also said that she started threatening him too, but with her life. Like saying if he actually leaves her, she's going to kill herself and it will be his fault. I didn't believe him at first, actually, since I had never seen or heard my sister behave like that. So he showed me the text as proof and told me that he couldn't handle being in such a relationship since he was now afraid of her. Then he said he was also scared of me or interacting with me just in case Kate would hurt me again because of it. I called my mom and tried to explain everything to her after I was done with all my classes, and I even had Adam there to speak to them just in case she wouldn't believe me or wouldn't believe what Adam had told me. But my mom just started yelling at me. She told me that what I was doing was wrong, like communicating with someone who caused my sister so much pain, and even trying to get her to speak to him. She then refused to speak to him or even hear the reason he broke up with her because all he did was hurt Kate in her eyes, and she said that me continuing to speak to him meant I didn't care about my sister. I then told her how Kate was threatening me, and she told me that it was just out of anger and that I should stay away from Adam if I don't want to make Kate angrier. I kept trying to get her to understand how I felt, but she kept dismissing me so much and yelling at me too that I cried and had to end the call. I stayed at school with Adam for some time, and we spoke about what I should do, mostly because I was just scared of going home and wanted to talk to someone who understood me, not to trigger Kate. Kate was spamming me with texts asking if I was with Adam and what was taking me so long to go home. She was also calling me a lot, and when I didn't answer her calls, she called me through my mom's phone. When I answered and heard it was her, I hung up after she said she knew I was with Adam. I honestly felt so exhausted by all of this and had to even face the fear of asking a friend who sleeps in the dorms if I could stay with her. I told her everything too, and we're close, so I have been here for a few days. I told my parents that I was with a friend to prep for some exams, and both of them, especially my father, insisted I go home. Especially since I'm the youngest. They don't trust me to stay away from home since, first, I have nothing on me, but I'm actually just scared to go home that I don't care. My parents think I'm overreacting about Kate's threats and even made me speak to her on the phone. She told me she didn't mean it, but I don't believe her. They're saying I'm trying to ruin Kate's name by involving others in family matters. Like what? I had to turn my phone off for some time because of Kate constantly calling and texting threats and insults to me. And when I tell my parents, they literally made excuses. Oh, and on Saturday, all three of them came to my school to try and find me. I was lucky not to bump into them, but Adam and one of my other friends were unfortunately spotted by Kate. Adam didn't want to talk to them, so he avoided them and warned me about it. My friend, who did talk to them, told me my sister asked her if I was staying with Adam, and my parents told her to tell me to come home and to take their calls. So yeah, I apologize if this post feels all over the place. I tried to explain everything for everyone who wanted an update. I'm still so stressed about everything, and keeping my distance isn't helping like I thought it would. I'm constantly worried that my sister or my parents will find me and that I will have to speak to them about this, which I don't want to, but I know I'll have to go home soon since my parents are insisting on it. /relevant comments. Commenter. Holy crap, why is she looking for you? So she can keep threatening you and blaming you for her psychosis? I'm glad you have friends to stay with. Are there any resources at your campus that can help you with mental health or counseling? Stay safe. Ops response. Thank you so much. I haven't considered counseling yet, since I still feel a little guilty that more people know about what happened with Kate, and my parents wouldn't really be happy about it. Commenter 2. It seems to me that no matter what you do, they'll still care more about Kate. It's time to focus on yourself, and if that means keeping a distance from them, then so be it. You have tried reasoning with your sister and parents, telling them the truth. But you can't force others to believe something they don't want to hear. Please stay safe and keep communicating with your friend or others. It's important that you have a community around you to keep you safe in case anything happens. And save all evidence of your sister's crazy texts in case things get ugly. Commenter 3. Stay away from both. Your sister needs serious help, and your parents don't seem to be doing much. I know you're very young, and it's probably hard for you to move out, but it almost seems like your parents would choose your sister to stay home over you. Ops response. The issue with moving out is that I'm financially dependent on my parents, and I've gotten used to life in school without worrying about having a job, since the course I'm doing is quite heavy. But I'm now considering it. Thank you so much. Second update 1 day later. I am once again overwhelmed by the support, advice, and encouragement I have received. Thank you so much. I once again took everyone's advice. The hardest part about this was having to move out of the house I grew up in. It was really hard to go back. I actually felt worried, but I decided to go back home today when both of my parents were there, and I also went with a friend just in case. Plus, I had time since my classes were all in the evening. My family has this obsession with keeping the family image good, and I kind of surprised them by coming back so suddenly, and with a guest, I think. I first sat down with them, and my friend went upstairs to my room to begin the packing and, obviously, to give us space. My parents then started talking in silent tones, basically telling me to stop being dramatic and to stop dragging this issue out, that it has already happened and I should just forget it and come back home. I first asked if I could stay in the campus accommodation or the apartments close to school since I am actually doing my final exams from Thursday and I wanted to stay in school where I can focus solely on school. I thought this approach would work since my parents are pretty strict about school, but they refused immediately. My father said that I wasn't allowed to until I was older, and my mother said she knows it's because of Kate. I then told them I've already decided that's what I want and that I'll do it anyway, and my father threatened to stop paying my fees. He also told me to think about what our other family members would think and that I'd have a lot of time in our house with my sister during the summer break to make up. But I dreaded actually spending so much time in the same place as Kate. Plus, I had already asked the school about summer housing, and it is allowed at my school, but you have to pay a different price, which I expected my parents not to agree to pay. My friend came downstairs while we were talking and called me to the side. Then she told me that she was looking for a suitcase and Kate burst in and was lunging at her, but then stopped when she realized it wasn't me. She said she was scared and wanted to leave, and I felt scared too. I took my friend to my parents and told her to repeat what she just told me, and my mom just sighed. She told me to go if I wanted and see how I'd survive without them. I looked at my dad, but he didn't say anything. I asked if I was allowed to leave, and my dad said I could go, but as long as I wasn't under his protection, I shouldn't expect anything from them. My friend said to me that it was okay and that she'd help me pack. So I asked my parents to tell Kate to come downstairs, and Mom said she can do whatever she wants since she lives there. So my friend and I just went upstairs, and my room was wide open. We actually hesitated to go in, but she wasn't there. I packed most of my clothes, not everything. Then we left immediately after. I decided to speak to the school with my friend more about on-campus housing and explain my entire situation, and I was actually allowed to have it if I took summer classes or did an internship. But since I'm a freshman, it would be harder to do an internship, so I am choosing to do summer classes. I was then asked to speak to the campus safety officers concerning my sister and the threats she made against me. But I'll go with Adam tomorrow, since we both have evidence, and I had a lot of work bringing my stuff to the dorms as well as an evening class to prepare for. I called my father afterward and told him about it, the housing and fees, and then I asked again if he was really not going to pay my fees or support my other expenses. He said that he'd pay for school fees and housing, but I'd have to figure everything else out, like food and stuff, which I think is manageable. Now regarding pressing charges, I don't want to risk being cut off financially by my parents since I am not ready to pay for my own fees yet. Plus, after I blocked my sister, she stopped bothering me. But after my friend told me that she lunged at her when she came back home, I'm worried she'll do that again to me. And a lot of comments on my posts have given me scenarios that made her scarier to me. But Adam wants to file a restraining order against her. For some reason, he doesn't have her blocked, just muted, but he views all her texts and even forwards some to me or sends screen recordings of voice notes she sent him. And yes, we are actively communicating because we are going through the same issue. I hope to just receive protection from Kate. Even if it means spending my entire summer at school, I'll do it. I'm not sure what's going to happen tomorrow, but even now, the school has said they're not letting people into the dorms area, so I'll be safe until then. To the people hating on me for not pressing charges earlier, I hope you understand I fully depend on my parents for everything. I was worried that if I did, I'd be cut off. But after my finals, I want to try and get a job so I can earn some money during the summer and hopefully get used to such independence. This is my final update. Thank you for all the support. I'm okay, so is Adam. And we'll continue working on making sure we're both safe. Editor's note: Op initially had this written in the last part of her post. As I mentioned, I will be starting my finals on Thursday, and I'll be very stressed and busy, so I might not be able to post another update or interact much with Kate. And sorry again if this post is all over the place. Maybe I'll try editing it tomorrow and let you know what happened. Since Op's account is now deleted and the part about the final update is there, I'm assuming she is done sharing this part of her life with internet strangers.